is to call the meeting to order. It is currently 7:08, and I'd like to call the Colmar Manor Town meeting on February 8th into order. Is there a motion?
This is Councilmember Mendoza. I'll make that motion stated.
There's second.
Councilmember Hargan, I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye. Raise your hands,
Aye.
please, so I can see them. Except for
Aye,
Councilmember.
I cannot, yeah, I'm saying
Got you,
aye.
got you.
Thank you.
Okay, so first order of business is the pledge of allegiance in the moment of silence. So let's pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
One nation,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with
with liberty and justice
for all.
for all.
And if we can now take a moment and have a moment of silence for those who are locked in, shut in, those who've gone through COVID, who've dealt with family members with COVID and other ailments. And let's just take a moment of silence and give pause and think about those people. Okay, well, now let's take a moment of silence as usual, and let's rejoice in the things that we're grateful for, the people in our lives that we care for, and the wonderful things that mean so much to us. Let's rejoice and be thankful for those things. Okay, I hope that can put a smile on your face. Thank you all very much. So starting off this meeting this evening is to have a non-citizen voting forum so that we can have a discussion and hear words from different people who may want to contribute to the conversation around non-voting. I would like to start. I support non-citizen voting. I always pretty much have supported it at some level. My main reason for that is that I feel like the US government makes it way too difficult for people with great intention and interest to be a US citizen to be able to afford to do that, whether that be time or money, or whether or not they feel like the people who may be interested have the background or the interest that the US government believes that should be. So I believe that at a minimum, within a local community, people with intention and meaning and interest to be a part of this country and this community should have at least a minimum an opportunity to do so within their local community. And for those who have chosen through permanent status to be here, for me, that's not questionable. These decisions have been made in order to move forward. And for those who may not have selected a permanent status, I think at a minimum, we should be supporting those people to help them to go through this process so that if this is what they want to do, they have an opportunity to do that. And as a community, we can all work together in order to make that happen. So I want to say that I did run into a problem, and it was the statistics. I felt funny because I have always felt that this was the right thing to do, but the statistics gave me pause. And I'll tell you why. And I hope that you can empathize with my thoughts here because it's super important. I'm a Black person. And generationally, my family has been here. I was born here. My parents were born here. My grandparents were born here. My great-grandparents were born here. We were all born here. And we, after 200 years, still struggle to have this vote. So it means a lot to someone with my background for this vote to happen. And the fact that someone is in the majority or somehow has had more folks with speaking a different language is not helpful. I believe people should have this right because they want to be present and they want to be here. And after slavery ended, Blacks in the South were the majority. This country made a concerted effort to immigrate as many Europeans as possible in order to bring those numbers down. In the South, those numbers remain around 30% for over 60 to 70 years. And overall in this country, they remain at about 10.5%. This was done very deliberately, and it was based on creating a majority of another culture of people in order to continue to hold us back. So I really want to say that I am with this community of non-citizens in supporting a path to voting in the community. I feel strongly in the short term that a permanent green card holder as well as a DACA participant should have that opportunity because those choices have already been clearly made. I would like to know for those who have not made that choice, their intention and their interest in being here. I really want whoever wants to do this to want to be here and not just want to make a statement. Because we are neighbors, we have a wonderful, diverse community. I appreciate all the people that are here. And moving forward, I would like to listen to what everyone has to say and for us to consider what and how we will build a game plan to move forward. So with that said, I wanted to let everybody know where I stood. I had spent a lot of times trying to break through where I got confused because I had felt good before and then I started to not feel so good. But now that I've been able to point out where that problem was, I'm back to where I was in the beginning. So I thank you all for being here. I look forward to hearing your voices, recording what you have to say. And then hopefully when we get back to the council, we can work on where we want to go from there. So again, thank you for being here. I would like to start by asking you to, if you can on your button, raise the hand. If you can't raise the hand on the button, which is what I prefer because I can tell the order that it come in. But if you can't raise your hand on your button, if you can turn on your camera and then just put your hand in the air, I will then call on you and you will get the opportunity to unmute yourself. And I would like for you to stick to 3 to 5 minutes if you possibly can, remembering that we want to give as many people an opportunity to speak as possible. And we still have a long meeting ahead of us. Thank you. And thank you for the honor of being your mayor. Okay, J.A., can you say your name? And once you unmute, say your name and your address.
Hi, my name is June, and I'm on Lawrence Street. Just had a question. I understand non-citizens being able to vote. Would they also be able to run for office?
Well, somebody asked me that question earlier today. I don't think so right now. From the state of Maryland, we are incorporated by the state of Maryland, and that incorporation provides the requirements for being elected. And we can, I mean, we can check in it further, but the first, I think the first step is actually getting the vote.
Okay, that was one of my concerns of.
Good, bad, or what?
Sure. You're not sure right now. That's something that needs to be.
We can study, yeah, we can study that going forward as we start here.
Okay, because that would
No,
be
but
a.
your opinion.
Mhm. My
I'm sorry.
opinion?
Yes.
My opinion would be that as the town, maybe we should focus more so on assisting non-citizens becoming citizens, and they would automatically be able to vote. There wouldn't be a question about them voting.
Got you.
That's my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I see Monica. You will state your name and your address.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Monica Casañas, and I live on 39th Avenue. I've been a Colmar Manor resident for the past 8, probably going on 9 years. I first want to start off with the positive and just thanking the government of the town to have this forum. But I'll go into the negative. It's obvious to me that this is completely unorganized. I think even opening with the statements that you did, Mayor Barrow, shows your bias, and it really disappoints me that you're making this a race issue when it is wholeheartedly an issue about expanding democracy to people that have been here for decades, that own property here, that pay taxes, and the fact that you continue to question whether they really want to be here. I don't think that we should be the judge or the jury on who really wants to be here. I think that we need to expand the ability for people to vote so that they can become more involved in their community. I also feel like, again, even by the previous comment, we haven't educated the town at all on what this means. And I feel like that's the job of our government, in addition to like ourselves. If you're interested in learning more, research it. There are other towns that have done this. It hasn't upset anything. As a matter of fact, people do go on to becoming citizens. We don't even know what parameters we're talking about. And again, it's because this whole discussion has been brushed under the rug, completely unorganized. There were no flyers sent out about this meeting, no intentional outreach, and it's disappointing to me. It's really disappointing that we're having a discussion without any type of like real foundation or research or like an educated conversation about something that's very important. When we talk about a town that has 40% of a Hispanic population, 60% that are not citizens, and this is all, you can find it on the census. I'm not making this up. And I'm happy to share it. And you can look on the Colmar Manor Facebook page that I run. You can see the data for yourself. We had a meeting with the mayors of different towns that have actually pushed this forward. And I'm just shocked that we haven't educated our town more on what this really means. We have the ability to shape this in a way that is good for our town. But to make this a divisive and a racial issue, I think it's sad. It's really sad. And I'm sad that you view it that way, Mayor Barrow. I'm really sad. It just shows to me, I thank you for actually revealing how you really feel about this issue. So those are my comments, but I'm happy to share more information with people. I'm happy to educate people on what this means. If you have questions, feel free to contact me. But let's get educated before we actually talk about this. I feel like this meeting is doing you a disservice.
Someone else have a speak up? Amy, you state your full name and your address.
My name is Amy Galatly and I live on Lawrence Street. Let me put my hand down, sorry. I wanted to speak in support of this idea. I think it's a really nice idea to allow all the residents of our town to be able to be involved in a conversation about what they want to see in the town. And to me, that's what voting in local town elections, it's the way that you engage in what you want to see in your town, what services you need, what you want your tax dollars to go to. So I really like the idea that it could be possible here in Colmar Manor, especially when I learned that the majority of the people that live around me here in this town are non-citizens. The fact that they're not able to take part in conversations about what this town should be and do and have is sort of shocking. And And I know we do have a violent history in this country of disenfranchising people of color, keeping people of color from voting, and that's terrible. And I hope we all can do everything we can to expand the right to vote so that people can be part of our democracy. I would not want to be part of an organization that denies the right to vote to people. And I know that the overwhelming majority of people who are undocumented would be citizens if they could, but the way that our immigration laws are structured is to keep people out. It is not, most people who are undocumented do not have a easy path to citizenship. So I don't think that, I like the idea of our town being able to help people become citizens, but for the most part, I know that the laws are stacked against that. There's not really like a line you can wait in, or like an easy, for a lot of people, it takes decades, if ever, to become a citizen. So that feels unrealistic. And I think in the meantime, it would be great for the majority of my neighbors to be able to feel like we as a town care about them and want to hear what they have to say. So those are my comments. Thank you so much for holding this conversation.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Anyone else? So, okay, Maya, name and full name, and then your street.
Hi, good evening. My name is Maya Shepherd. I live on Lawrence Street. Thank you for having this forum. I'm here also in support of non-citizen voting in Colmar Manor. I think it's a very exciting idea, exciting possibility. I feel that I believe strongly that there isn't a con to expanding democracy. And we have an opportunity as a small town to expand democracy and to see and experience the benefits of that, because I believe that when you expand the right to vote and you expand access to representation, you also expand possibility for engagement in local politics, contributions to local communities. There really is not a downside. And while obtaining citizenship as an ideal is a wonderful ideal, it is a very complicated issue that our town cannot necessarily step into and have an immediate positive impact around because of the laws that Amy mentioned, where it's just very complicated to obtain citizenship and the path is long for many people. Whereas we can have an immediate positive impact on what I think is a very simple issue of expanding the right to vote within our town, expanding representation within our town, and joining the towns around us in Maryland who have done the same thing. College Park, Tacoma Park, Cheverly, Mount Rainier, Hyattsville. Garrett Park actually has had this in place since 1918. Riverdale, Brentwood, Chevy Chase. I think people probably saw in the news, New York City did this recently. And people are doing this because I think there is a large amount of support for doing something that would just be a positive for local communities. So that's what I have to say. Thank you for hearing me out tonight.
Thank you so much, Maya. Hope I pronounced that correctly. Next, we have Juan. Full name and street.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Juan Antonio Casañas, vivo en la avenida 39, aquí en Colmar Manor. I don't know how much you caught that, but I do want to bring up is the point that the issue of non-citizen voting is not a Latino issue. It just so happens that it affects a large percentage of Latinos in our town, because that happens to be the makeup of our town. It has to deal with granting and recognizing a large percentage of disenfranchised individuals in this town. I believe it's over 50%, closer to 60% are non-citizens from different walks of life. Spanish speakers, French speakers, Amharic speakers, etc. And by not acknowledging that and not granting them the citizen, the power to be able to decide on how and what happens in their town, it's an attack to democracy. This isn't a topic dealing with race. This isn't a topic dealing with ethnicity. This is a topic dealing with equity. Let me repeat that. This is a topic of equity. The struggle of all people, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender preference, or what have you. This is to make sure that everybody has a word on how they're living and their living conditions. Now, reviewing many meetings in the last couple of days in the past, this topic of non-citizen voting is also getting mixed in with a lot of other topics. The point of being 16 years old to be able to vote, that's getting mixed into this conversation. The conversation is being mixed in with issues of race, is getting mixed into this topic. None of that has to do with any of this. The topic at hand here is a resident of this town who pays taxes, who has been here for 20, 30, 40 years, who cannot vote because of their status in this country, because of racist laws that have been passed over the decades, because of issues dealing with they got stopped because of one drunk driving incident and now they can't even vote, because of fear of persecution. You know, these individuals are citizens, they're residents. These people live here, they've made families here, it's multi-generational, and to deny them that right, especially when we can give it to them, is apprehensive. It's truly apprehensive. We can look at our history of this country. We can look 20 years ago, issues in Puerto Rico and Vieques. We can look further, 30, 40 years, the civil rights movement, where Latinos and African Americans fought together, worked together to create a more equal and equitable nation, where also our white Americans also did the same. Blood, sweat, tears of all nationalities, of all ethnic identities, of all racial identities have fought for these rights. My grandfather fought in the war, and he was imposed his citizenship. He didn't have a choice. It was imposed on him because of a colony. And then he had to go fight in the war. That's the rest of the story of our people. Our people aren't just the citizens. Our people are the people who live here, who are residents, my neighbor. I have arguments with my neighbor in front. That's part of our neighborhood. I have fun. I walk dogs with another neighbor. I meet up with somebody else, you know. But denying their the capabilities of a right to vote, you're disenfranchising them even further than what they already are. If we have the capabilities and the rights and the tools to give increase the equity in this town, we should, just like everybody else is doing. That's where this country is going to, just like what Maya just described earlier. Gracias por su tiempo.
Thank you very much. I just want to remind everybody, I don't feel like we're operating in a hostile environment. We're moving towards the same page. So, from what I've heard.
I disagree with you, Mayor. You have presented, not only today, but also in the past, that somebody was proved their want to be here. In not so many words, you did express that both on that November 9th meeting, and then just at the beginning. They have a green card. You know how much privilege it takes for an individual to have a green card?
Yes.
You know how hard that is? And mind you, a green card is not the correct term. It's a residency card. What about the people who are here from due to asylum seekers? They don't have the right to vote for their community. They're not residents.
Yep.
Or individuals who got stuck here for your multiple reasons, running from danger from their homes back, or economic multinational economic conditions in their home, supported by this government that made living in their home difficult and came here to make a better life. And that is the evidence of that. And you have spoken against that. And you spoke against, yes, you did, Mayor, on November 9th at, I can tell you the timestamp right now. At around 2:30:18, you were mentioning that. From November 9th meeting. Roughly, I could be off by a couple of seconds or about a minute or two. You may not use the exact words, but the way that was spoken about was that.
No, I'm not sure what your interpretation of what it is that I have said, but what I want to say is, in terms of the light of whatever the circumstances someone has wound up here, I'm not going to back down to the idea that I feel like a person needs to want to be here, to be here and be involved. I mean, even if the case is they want to be here because they don't want to be in the danger that they're in the place that they may have come from, it's still, Colmar Manor is still in the United States, in the state of Maryland. And
who cares why they're here? They're a productive member of our society and our community, regardless of how they came here.
Because someone, okay, so you want to say, well, who cares why?
The difference is that somebody who was born by luck of the draw of genetics and timing was born here, as opposed to somebody who chose to abandon or leave behind their families, their friends, their culture,
and
their
all
people,
of that's real. All of that's real. All of that is real. It doesn't change the fact that things can be.
You said, I'm in this country because I want to be in this country, and not because I want this country to become me. That's your quote. And this is a real big part of what is becoming a U.S. citizen of the United States, is that you're here to be here, not here to change here. And that's a part of what they've written. ... That's a direct quote.
Okay. I'm sorry, but you don't think that there's something wrong with saying that? I mean, to me, it's very troubling. Your views are very troubling. And sometimes I'm actually kind of like, I don't say much about it, but when it happens, I can't believe that you say those things. and you say them in a public forum. And you don't think that there's anything wrong with that when you tell
You
people
don't,
that you don't want to make this town or the United States you? What are you trying to say? That you don't want Mexicans to make this Mexico? Is that what you're trying to say?
I would say that. I don't want to,
Oh.
I would not.
Thank you. Then I think, you know, for
Would
your
you,
patriotism,
would you want what is a country to become another country?
I want my country to be a melting pot and a welcoming place for people from everywhere. There's not one American thing, because there are things in American culture that are Chinese, that are Mexican, that are Filipino. So yeah, so I don't know what your view of America is. My view of America are all the different faces that look like mine or different than mine, that are different colors. That's my view of America. I do not care if my neighbor from Ethiopia moves here and wants to open up an Ethiopian shop. I have no problem with that.
And I have no problem with that either.
It sounds
I
like
have
you
no
do.
problem
It
with
sounds
that
like you
either.
do. It really sounds like you do. And I would ask you to please think about what you say and
I
think
am
about
thinking-
how it could be insulting to other people, because it's insulting. Maybe
No,
no one's told you that before, but it's insulting.
But what I'm not understanding, if you go on to the immigration page for immigrating to this country, that is significantly a reasoning in the immigration process. The intention that, I mean, just go to the page where you sign up in order to become an immigrant.
This
is-
topic here has nothing to deal with immigration. The topic today is to grant a privilege and a right and a tool that we can to those who are underserved. That's what this topic is.
And as I started from the
Immigration
very
has no
beginning,
topic in this conversation, just like race, ethnicity, gender, or anything else.
this
The question
conversation
is, do we
about
want to
immigration.
grant?
Mayor,
Do we want to grant those who are
Sir.
disenfranchised access?
excuse me, everybody. John
Yes,
Barr
Mr.
speaking.
Barr.
Mayor and everybody here, everybody at the meeting. You call on people to speak in a public forum. You do not call on them to debate in a public forum. The only people who can debate in the forum are the elected officials who are there tonight. If you want to have a debate, certainly have a debate, but until you follow your rules of procedure and order, you're never going to get through anything. I'm only saying this because I want this discussion, this debate, this agenda item to be handled in a way that's proper before our board, for our elected officials, and you're not doing it. You're saying
Well, I
the same
think-
things to one another.
Right. Well, thank you for that, Mr. Barr. Thank
Everybody's
you
out
very
of
much.
order. And
Yes.
I'll
You're
dump speak.
correct, John.
I will
Mr. Barr.
accept,
I
I will
appreciate your intervention.
accept and appreciate that I will accept and appreciate that there's a point of view in relationship to having that point of view. I am not disappointed in my point of view. I'm sorry. I am comfortable in that space, and it may be off-putting to someone else, but I'm not saying that people of non-citizens shouldn't vote. I am incorporating a full set of thoughts, including the fact that there are people here who've been here for years for permanent status. I am including the fact that there are people here who were brought here of no will of their own. I'm including the fact that there are people who wind up coming here because wherever it was that they were was disruptive or destroyed or whatever, and we should be inclusive to all of those people. What is important to me is that the empathy to those who are here is also recognized, because this is not a one-sided conversation. And the opportunity this is an immigration conversation, because a part of immigrating to this country is voting. And what we're talking about is providing vote to our local municipal community prior to a vote becoming available on the larger US scale. So we're gonna hopefully agree to disagree on this perspective. And I would move forward with anybody else who might wanna say something who hasn't spoken. I don't think I've heard from Sarah before. So Sarah, if you can just speak your thoughts, your name and your street.
Sí, buenas noches a todos. Yo vivo en la 39 Avenida. Y pues yo quisiera de que pues por favor la alcaldesa pues nos diera la oportunidad, ¿verdad? A nosotros los hispanos, que nos dé la oportunidad a poder votar, ¿verdad? Porque pues como la vez pasada yo mencioné, yo tengo 11 años de vivir acá. Mi esposo ya tiene 19 de estar siempre aquí en Colmar Manor y pues nunca nos han dado la oportunidad, ¿verdad? Y pues ahora yo quisiera que pues que nos tomaran en
We are
cuenta,
ready to move forward.
porque yo he visto pues mucho racismo también que no nos toman en cuenta. Yo he pasado por cosas en mi trabajo que los morenos a uno no lo ven como nada, le gritan, y todos somos iguales porque todos venimos sin papeles acá, ¿verdad? Y todos queremos tener la oportunidad. Entonces yo quisiera pedirle de favor a los de la alcaldía, pues, que nos den la oportunidad, ¿verdad?, de participar. Porque también vivimos acá, pagamos impuestos y pues vivimos en el vecindario. Todos somos un solo país, un sola familia, todos vivimos acá, ¿verdad? Si no viviéramos acá, no estuviéramos pidiendo, ¿verdad?, que nos tomen en cuenta. Eso es todo lo que yo quería hablar, de pedirles, ¿verdad?, que nos tomen en cuenta. Muchas gracias a todos.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Appreciate it.
De nada.
Is there someone else who hasn't spoken who would like to speak up?
Are you on to the council?
Oh, Councilmember Harding.
Oh yeah, I won't take up too much time. I really thought I would have had something planned out for this, but honestly, I was just here to gain insight from how the residents feel. We're inside of Black History Month, and just understanding what this means to people puts me in a position, as I said in our last meeting, where I'm not playing to politics, where I'm in no position to gatekeep opportunity for democracy. And relating back to being in Black History Month, in 2022, 2021 to 2020, there's still laws that are being created to help with votes for colored people because we're being disenfranchised with laws that are created already against us. And I just don't want to be a part of that system. So in my piece, people know where I stand already. And it's just about having a common ground so that things can move forward, because I don't want it to fall face flat if it was presented.
Thank you for that. Anyone else before we move on to the rest of the meeting?
Mayor, can I, Councilmember Mendoza, can I share something with everyone?
Councilmember.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for coming out this evening. Before our meeting this evening, we received an email from a Ward 4 resident that I would like to read to everyone. It goes, Madam Mayor and council members, unfortunately, I won't be able to attend tonight's forum on account of a prior engagement, but wanted to send along the following quick thoughts regarding non-citizen voting. If it seems appropriate to share more widely, please feel free. I will try to watch the meeting online later, and I'll be sure to attend the next meeting. Why should we citizens allow non-citizen voting? So some may argue from what may be called an ontological perspective that every adult has the inalienable God-given right to self-determination. While this is also my view, and surely that of many others, ultimately, I don't think it's fully persuasive in a diverse community, because we all may have differing views of what God gives and what constitutes the full set of human rights. So instead, I'd like to present a consequentialist perspective that non-citizen voting will bring tangible, concrete benefits to citizens. This may seem counterintuitive, so I welcome skeptics, but hear me out. Strange as it seems, it turns out to be true that in many cases, allowing my neighbor to have the ability to tell me what to do can be good for my own well-being. How can this be true? First of all, we ought to note that it's already the case that non-citizens can and do vote with their feet. On this front, I think our town has been relatively successful. Our property values have risen quickly. Our streets have been relatively safe and welcoming. And this is because we've successfully attracted stable, hardworking, non-citizen families. We've already reaped many of the benefits of non-citizens voting with their feet. But we don't just want our neighbors to continue to be willing to pay high house prices and high property taxes. We also want our neighbors to be happy and engaged in the community. We want to encourage discussion and a consensus building. Nearly all of our interactions with our neighbors are outside the official channels of town voting. If voting allows our neighbors to feel even a tiny bit more engaged, that's to the daily benefit of us citizens. Most of us have chosen and continue to choose to live in Colmar Manor and not Bethesda, Shirlington, east of Rock Creek, not despite our town's diversity, but because of it. We like to be exposed to new cultures, new perspectives that we wouldn't otherwise encounter in our daily lives. It keeps us young, sharp, and fully alive. It gets us outside our comfort zone and helps us grow. But I think we also benefit as a community from having more perspectives on the policy issues of the day. From feral cats to herbicides, we have to have the humility to recognize that our neighbors may know some things that we don't know, and to seize these opportunities to learn from our neighbors. No self-respecting heterosexual man wants a Stepford wife with no will or opinions of her own. Every husband with a wife ought to want to be able to vote. In the same way, we ought to want a Stepford town with Stepford neighbors. I don't know who opposes this measure, if anyone. While I certainly respect all my neighbors' opinions and understand this may be an issue on which reasonable people may, for a time, disagree, I invite my fellow citizens to reject insecurity and fear and to more fully welcome our neighbors into our community. Thank you, Adam B. He lives on the 4300 block of Monroe Street. Thank you, Adam, for that email.
Thank you very much for sharing that. I appreciate it. I am going to say, unless Councilmember Bowles has something to, or Councilmember Hobbs has something to share in this moment, I was going to move on.
This little laptop is difficult to deal with. What I was going to actually ask, first of all, I just want to thank everyone. There's much I could say, but I'm going to say very little. I'm deeply moved at this moment. I'm feeling very emotional. And I would like to ask if we could please take a small break to gather our thoughts and maybe get a sip of water and come back. Because there's been a lot of passion shared and a lot of voices heard. And I know for myself, speaking from the I could use maybe 2 minutes to just take a breath and come back to the rest of the business at hand. Would that be possible?
Yes, if I could just check in on Councilmember Hobbs and to see if there's any thought. I know you've made points before, but if you want to.
Sure. Yes, thank you. I'm sorry, I'm speaking with a bit of a lisp. I currently have braces. So I hope I make sense. Thank you for bringing this important issue to us for discussion. As a recent immigrant to the United States, I can uniquely identify with this cause. I come from a part of the world that has a relatively short history with democratic governance generally, the rule of law, and let alone the broad-based voting rights. I'm a strong supporter of democratic principles, the rule of law, and the American forms of governance. The expansion of voting rights and enfranchisement at any level of government is among the most important issues that citizens and elected officials alike could consider. With regard to this local voting rights matter, I believe there is a strong logic to expanding the vote to permanent legal residents who have reached the age of adulthood. Permanent residents are deeply important members of our communities, and they have demonstrated longstanding ties to our communities and our republic. These individuals are on their way to becoming citizens of the United States of America, and we should encourage their participation in local political matters. Informed civic participation at the local level will undoubtedly help to foster a more informed and prosperous citizenry when they have the rights and responsibilities to participate in federal elections. I don't currently believe that expanding the vote to adolescents, temporary visa holders, or the undocumented is the best interest of the local community. There are abundant ways that members of our community, regardless of status or age, can meaningfully engage in the community and participate in committees. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So before we just take the break, I want to say, because we're going to come back and go to the rest of our agenda, is I feel like Councilmember Harding has made a super strong point. We are so close to to making the progress that we need in the direction we all want to at least start in, that we should look to our common interests, the things that we are on the same page with, so that we can start there. Either one of us, either way, any of us can expand our thinking as we go along. But what we are not is, we are not what's the word? We are not dreadlocked. We're not at an impasse. We are in a situation of forward movement, and we should take advantage of what that is, as Councilmember Harding says, and look at our common ground, move forward, and see where we expand each other's thoughts going forward. With that said, we will take a quick recess. Is there any objection to a quick recess from the council? Okay, so we will take a 5-minute recess, if that's okay, and then come back to the business of the day. I want to thank everybody who's participating here today. I totally appreciate everybody's comments, whether we're on the same page of mine or not. I appreciate you sharing them, and we'll talk. We'll come back in 5 minutes. Thanks.
Thank you.
Call the meeting back to order again at 8:03. Any objections? All right, so there's one item that we had said we were going to talk about that didn't get on the agenda, which was the cleaning of the building. Anybody have any objections on putting that on the agenda under new business? With none, we'll move forward with the report on the work session. So the work session, which was held on February the 1st, first item of business after the call to order was American Rescue Plan discussion with our consultant. We have brought on a consultant to assist us with the process. He and Mr. Baden will be putting a schedule together before the end of this month. That schedule will include engaging the community, doing some surveys to the community to find out what are the needs of community, analyzing some of the needs of the infrastructure in town that could be covered by this package, and going through a process of elimination and determine the best way to use the funds that we have available to help our residents, to help our businesses, and also to help the structural matters in town as they relate to COVID in general, but overall beyond that. We also talked to the Greater Riverdale's Care Group, which is a group of people who are supporting and helping restaurant owners, particularly independent restaurant owners, and supporting that. They have made a request for a half of 1% of COVID money across the different towns in order to support the efforts that they have in getting people food. And so their ask will be included in the conversations that we have in the future with the community. We talked about our COVID leave policy, in that many people have had to stay home because they were exposed to COVID, which impacted their leave available to them, and actually contracting COVID, put that at a lean area. Robust conversation with no direct result, and we'll have some continued conversation about that this evening. We talked about purchasing masks for residents. This went on the agenda prior to President Biden providing for everyone to collect masks free at CVS's and so forth. However, for the number, we will be evaluating that situation. The county has supplied us with approximately 100 masks so that we can check in with our families that have a large number of people because they may not get enough, and which is the same case with the test kits, the rapid test kits. The county has provided a small amount of test kits that we will probably reach out to our larger families to supplement the 2 kits that President Biden has promised everyone. We had a conversation about the code enforcement software. There wasn't enough information in that point for us to make any decision at that time. We had a conversation about reopening the building, and with a 3-2 vote, did make a decision to reopen a building with some specific protocols surrounding mask testing, vaccination, and distancing, which we'll have some further conversation about. We talked about the mayor and council having a retreat and having a facilitator as a part of that retreat. And we also brought forward in the meeting our codification, which we have been discussing in the last couple of months, which is to bring our ordinances and codes into a single group after presentations from multiple organizations that do that work. Council, is there anything that I missed from the meeting? Nope. All right.
No, ma'am.
So moving. I'm sorry.
No, I was saying no, ma'am. You hit it all.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the treasurer's report. Mr. Baden is absent this evening. So we are currently, this treasurer's report is through January, through the year, which is, let's see, 7 divided by 12. That puts it about 58% of the total year. Our current revenues are $1,816,000.41. That's 64% of the revenues that we've had budgeted for. Under expenses for general government expense, we have currently spent $204,471.35, which is 47.3% of the budget. So that's below the 58%. We have for our senior van operations spent 40.9% of our total budget. For code enforcement, we await getting an invoice from Cottage City because our code enforcement officer is employed with Cottage City. And so we'll wait before we'll have any information on that. For Public Works, we are at $150,659,000. That's 45% of the budget. For the community service, including debt service to the building, we're at 61.8% of the building. For public safety, we're at $199,246, which is 42% of the budget. For the community center operations, we're at $10,318.89, which is 43% of the budget. And as far as any COVID spending, we are at approximately $2,700 of the plan. So, and another 1119. Is there any questions that we should be considering taking back to the treasurer from the council? No questions? Okay. He's also shared a balance sheet. The balance sheet provides that we have $345,719 as cash in the bank. We have property tax accounts receivables of $39,357. We have current assets of long-term assets of $1,466,925.67. And we also have amounts provided by loan, $1,975,290,000. Assets, our total assets are $3,827,292. For liabilities, we have current liabilities of $43,919, primarily referred of the deferred property taxes, uncollected. We have a bond payable to SunTrust Bank for $1,975,290,000. Total liabilities of $2,019,500.65, which brings our bank balance reserve currently at $1,870,000. Well, reserve is $778,000 and $4,000, and the net income to date is $1,029,779. So our total equity to date is $1,807,783. Okay, is there a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
Councilmember Hobbs makes that motion stated.
There's a second.
Councilmember Bowles will second that.
Opposed, any discussion? With none said, we'll share that with Mr. Baden. I'll call for a vote. Ward 1.
Aye.
Ward 2.
Aye.
Ward 3.
Aye.
Ward 4.
Aye.
Mayor votes aye. Thank you. That is Mr. Baden. Okay, moving on to the police report. Chief Stone.
All right, good evening, everyone. And I will try to share a screen here quickly. All right. For the police report for the month of January 2022, there were 80 calls for service or police initiated activity in the town during the month. There's a couple of highlights there. There was a call for an armed person, which I'll discuss in a moment. We had one loud party complaint that was in the 4300 block of Lawrence Street. And you'll note on here, there's a call for a shooting, which I'll discuss in a moment. Of those calls for service, it resulted in 10 police reports. I'll touch on those real quick. On the first of the year, January 1st, we had a call for someone discharging a firearm in the 3500 block of 43rd Avenue. There was an arrest made in that, and 2 handguns covered. And that was a discharge of a firearm into the air. It was not a assault. Nobody was injured, anything along those lines. At about the same time, we had a call for an armed person, 4300 block of Lawrence Street. That was a domestic assault with minor injury, did not require hospitalization, and a weapon was not involved in the assault. Let's see, I believe there was an adult male arrested in that case as well. We had a theft of a wallet reported from a residence in the 3400 block of 39th Avenue. The shoplifting at the CBS where the suspect left prior to police arrival. We had a vehicle was reported damage in the 4300 block of Newark Road. Burglary report in the residential area, which is very rare, 4300 block of Lawrence Street. And that was a residence where the occupants were in the process of vacating and the property was stolen. A fraud reported in the 4300 block of Lawrence Street. Someone's account was compromised. Transactions were made without their consent. Vandalism in the 4200 block of Newton Street, where a vehicle was damaged. 4300 block of Newark Road at 3 a.m. Resident called by someone on their porch. They believed it to be a burglary, no burglary attempt, and the person was issued a citation for trespassing. And lastly, on the 31st, we had a missing person reported 3400 block of 39th Avenue. It's a 14-year-old juvenile that is voluntary disappearance. It's a runaway. It's been becoming a frequent problem. One traffic accident in town resulting in a police report, and that was a hit and run in the 4000 block of Bladensburg Road on the 23rd. And traffic enforcement was rather light during the month. We've had a little light on our staffing. We had one traffic stop with 2 violation notices issued. Neighborhood watch, we have not had, did not have a meeting due to holidays in November and December, and January. I ended up having a conflict and we weren't able to have the meeting, but we are planning to have it on Thursday, February 23rd. May be held virtually, but hopefully we'll be able to hold it inside the town hall, and we'll make the announcement of that. We had one animal complaint during the month. That was a barking dog, 3700 block of Monroe Street, and we spoke with the owner, and hopefully that has been rectified. As mentioned earlier, we have a code enforcement officer on duty, Mr. Charles Redding. His services are shared with the town of Cottage City. We get him 4 hours a day, and Cottage City the other 4. I won't go through. On the last page of the report is an overview of the code enforcement activity during the month. Started out, he's new to the town, started out kind of late with most of these are bulk trash issues. And that is that Bates provides bulk trash pickup each Wednesday. Call, make a reservation, set it out Tuesday evening, they pick it up Wednesday. We have many folks set out bulk trash on the weekend. Doesn't sound like too much of a big deal when one person does it, but when you have 10, 15 people setting out mattresses on the curb, it does become a problem. He's also focusing on disabled vehicles without tags, et cetera, in the front yards, and that will the code enforcement efforts will increase. So hopefully some folks have seen him around the neighborhood and maybe have gotten a notice or two, and hopefully things will improve. That's it for the police report.
All right, thank you very much, Chief. Does anybody have any questions for the chief? Is that I don't see any hands. So I asked the chief, I'll ask you a question about the refrigerator. I didn't know, so you probably as well as I, that the reason that you had to take the doors off the refrigerator was because of the latch in the door. Refrigerators don't have those latches anymore. They still have that rule out there?
Yes, the rule is still out there. It goes back, I don't know, back when they had latches on doors where if you were inside a refrigerator, it's really just stop kids around. The kids do kids things. They get into a refrigerator, and in the olden days, the door could lock and you couldn't get out. Now that's really not the case. However, that does still exist. You're supposed to take the doors off.
Well, I'm glad to see the bulk trash issue out too early is starting to get some attention. So we don't have to go through 4 days of having all of the bulk on the street.
That was complicated a little bit this month by the bad weather. We started out the month with the snow and the ice, and bulk trash got delayed and stuff, but hopefully that will all improve.
And I know you said about the missing person that is a runaway continuously happening, but is she or he in a good place right now?
Probably not. It's kind of a long distance runaway, and Prince George's County investigators are working on it and hopefully get the person returned.
All right, well, thank you so much for that. Is there a motion to accept the police report?
I think somebody has their hand raised, Mayor.
Oh, okay, Android. State your name and your question. And your street.
The bulk, if
Your
you
name?
have an appliance delivered on the weekend.
Your name, can I get your name?
June on Lawrence Street.
Oh, hi, June. How are you?
Hi. If you have a delivery on the weekend and I'm a senior citizen, I can't have them leave it around the back and then I try to struggle to put it on the front. Is there a way to get a special permit or special permission for those 2 days that it needs to be there?
Is this to go out in the trash, bulk trash?
No, to call for bulk. To call for bulk. Let's say
Yeah.
I get a new refrigerator and to deliver it on Saturday, and I tell them to set it on the curb because I can't move it and they're not going to haul it away. Is there a way to get special permission or something so that you don't get a citation?
Chief?
In all honesty, you probably would not get a citation. If you're getting a refrigerator delivered every week and it becomes a frequent problem, you'd end up with a citation. If it's a one-time thing,
Oh, okay.
at the most of a warning notice, then it shouldn't again until the refrigerator dies in 15 or 20 years. But in all honesty, if it's a one-time occasion, it won't be a problem. And if you give a heads up, we can probably work with it.
Okay, that's what I needed to know. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for the chief? All right, is there a motion to accept the police report and code?
Councilmember Harden will make the motion as stated.
There's a second.
This is Councilmember Mendoza. I'll second that.
Okay. Any other discussion amongst council? I'll call for a vote. Ward 1.
Aye.
Ward 2.
Aye.
Ward 3.
Aye.
Ward 4.
Aye.
Mayor votes aye. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our community reports. Do we have any report from the community garden?
Yes, ma'am. That was forwarded to me by Ms. Epps this evening. She was unable to be here. Good evening, this is Councilmember Bowles. Their minutes were this as follows: that they're going to be having a workshop on winter sowing on February 19th. They discussed how to publicize that, including a flyer, which I have with me and will be forwarded hopefully to the citizens and residents. They are offering community service hours to the youth. Please email the Garden Club if you're looking for community service hours for school. Mayor, they've given an email address that looks like a website. It just says Colmar Manor communitygarden.com. How does that email address, how should that properly be formatted? Do you know?
No, I think that's an email address.
It is? Okay. There's no at anything. Okay.
Oh,
Well,
I'm sorry. Did I miss that? Maybe it's just say it again.
it's just a web, it just says Colmar Manor communitygarden.com. So it sounds like it ought to be somebody's at.
Okay, because they don't have a website, so it really is just a missing the at sign somewhere.
So would it be Colmar Manor Community Garden at colmarmanor.org?
Probably.
Okay, well,
Look-
I apologize. Actually, Maya's got her hands up. She may be able to correct that.
Go ahead, Maya.
Yeah, it's Colmar Manor Community Garden at Gmail.
At Gmail. Thank you,
It's
Maya.
at Gmail. Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
Maya.
you.
They're going to be renumbering the plots in the West Garden. And they're going to be working on putting bees back into the West Garden, working on the details. They plan to turn the compost and spread the wooden chips in the East Garden. And they welcome students who are in need of community service hours. So please contact the town hall or address your inquiry to the email as previously mentioned, Colmar Manor Community Garden at gmail.com. The fees for this year are $20. Please put it in an envelope with name and Colmar Manor Community Garden and drop it off at the town hall to the attention of Vivian Jackson. And then just for clarity, the Colmar Manor Garden Club will be sponsoring a winter sowing and seed exchange Saturday, February 19th from 10 a.m. until noon in the East Garden, which is the garden next to the levee, 4321 Newton Street. All are welcome. Bring an empty plastic container. Come learn and have fun. That is the Garden Club report.
Thank you so very much. I guess from hearing from the chief, we don't have a neighborhood watch report. Green Team, I know we had a meeting on the Green Team update.
Yes, thank you. Green Team, we had a meeting on the 24th of January over Zoom with Mr. Mike Hunninghake with the University of Maryland, who is also a director of the Sustainable Maryland Certification Program. And we had a very productive meeting. We discussed things that from his perspective, we were doing well, that we excelled at. And then also we mapped out other initiatives that we need to continue working on, and also to identify future plans. And he also informed us there will be another there were two more categories that were added to the Sustainable Maryland certification, and one of them has to do with electric cars, which is a great benefit to us since we've recently installed electric charging stations in our town. So he is pretty certain that we will be able to achieve and even excel at getting the necessary points to maintain and achieve a Sustainable Maryland certification for the next 3 years again. Okay, and so that was one that was regarding the Green Team meeting on the 24th. And also I would like to make an announcement that if you recall, when we had a joint Green Team meeting with Cottage City in last November, we had a representative, Natalia Sanchez, with the University of Maryland Financial Center, and we talked about residential stormwater management projects, potentially hosting those in our town. Implementing in our town. And recently I have received an email from Natalia Sanchez regarding a webinar that they will be hosting on Tuesday, February 22nd at 7 p.m. And you can register, and unfortunately I don't have an opportunity to share the link with those people who are attending today, but I will be passing this information to the town hall to share with the community. So if you are interested in receiving a free rain barrel or a native garden and or a tree installed on your property, then you would have to follow the link and register. And again, the webinar on the 22nd at 7 p.m. And so that concludes my Green Team report. Thank you.
right, thank you very much. Are there any other reports?
AWS.
AWS, are you doing it?
Oh, I heard someone else butt in too. Yeah, no, it's pretty short. The Anacostia River's return to swimmable. It's looking pretty good.
Wow.
Its waters received a passing grade for the third time in the 4 years, with the 2021 State of the River report card giving a A. But that was in one of the categories. But we're going to stay with the positive things. Despite being the third wettest year on record, we got that grade. So that's a positive thing. February 16th at 6 p.m., the Watershed Wednesday happy hour is going to be virtual. Come in, have a good time, a good conversation based around the things that they're going to be doing, as well as things that they want to see, and just get a vision from the community. And on March 22nd, they're having an event called Naturally Latinos Conference, which is a event in collaboration with, I forget the group, I don't want to butcher the name, but it's a Hispanic-led preservation group as well as naturalists. And they're going to be having discussions on many things, just in correlation to Watershed Society. And just seeing how they correlate between what they're doing and what's going on inside of their organization. So definitely advise anyone if they want to go out, check out Anacostia watershedsociety.com, and that information is located on there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Any other reports need to be made?
Hey, Mayor. Okay, yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead, Doug.
I didn't mean to push you off the screen. Atha?
Atha, okay.
Okay, so Anacostia Trails Heritage Association. There was an announcement that they will be broadening their reach and scope. They are beginning the process of that. So Atha will become probably a much bigger organization in time. That's exciting to hear. And there will potentially be a name change in the future as that expansion occurs. And also I had a wonderful meeting with Megan Bacco, who is the head of the organization, this past Monday. There was a walkthrough of Colmar Manor with Robert Patton from Maryland Parks, where they looked at a proposed pathway for our trail through town. Interestingly enough, Mayor, after our Port Towns quarterly meeting and the discussion that you mentioned about the bridge, I found out something very interesting to me anyway, which is that the bridge on the Cottage City side is Maryland Parks and the bridge on our side is State Highway. So we have a single bridge, which is controlled by two different organizations. And
you said it the other way. They go the other way. It's the other way. Yes.
Then they told me backwards, because that's what they told me, was that the Cottage City side was Maryland Parks. But anyway, the point is,
you're right.
It was great to have Robert Patton here. He noted some issues with our dueling ground, and it looks like Maryland Parks is going to be coming up to do some cleaning of that area, saving the trees and removing some brush. There was also some cleanup in town this weekend, I think by them potentially, because there was notice that there was some trash buildup. Department of Public Works, this entire project is going to be involving Maryland Park and Planning, ATHA, Department of Public Works in particular, and potentially others. A collapsed drain pipe was discovered in Newton Street Park, Blues Park, which would be repaired, which is only part of our drainage issue. And Mr. Patton is starting to work on plans for realignment of and the location of certain parts of the project. So it's still just beginning, but it was great to have them make that trip through the town and then to get that report back. So as that continues forward, I also introduced Megan Bacco to Michelle Kokolis, and the two of them are going to talk about ways in which their organizations may be able to collaborate and potentially could benefit Colmar Manor. I don't know if that will happen in the long run, but it's great to have those organizations talking to one another. And it concludes my ATHA report.
Thank you very much for that.
Just a real quick, Mayor. Last night, the Recreation Committee met last night. It was a very packed, robust. It was a standing room only. No, I'm just kidding. It was Council Member Bowles was there, resident Monica Casañas, and former council member who is also our resident recreation chair, Vivian Jackson, and also I. So we met last night and we talked about, because it is Black History Month, and ways that we can engage the community to get more information. We talked about possibly putting like Black History facts on our electronic sign so that all the residents can see that probably each week. And then the main event was talking about next month. There's wanting to do a flea market. The date that we have is March 26th. I don't think that the Recreation Committee has an email. Do we, Mayor? I don't think so.
No.
But I feel like we do, because residents, I know we got a lot of people on tonight. We definitely need volunteers. I feel like we need that email. So if there's anything that you can think about that the
We can set up an email.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, we can set up a Colmar Manor email, recreation@colmarmanor.org. If that's what you.
So I know that we do need volunteers. So I know there are a lot of high school students that need their volunteer hours. So definitely you can definitely do that with the different events that we're going to have. But so far, keep your calendar, schedule it. Flea market, March 26th. We're planning on having it in our spot in between the Burger King and Taco Bell. Look, I see them and I couldn't. So our spot there. Yeah, that's enough because I'll go on and on. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. All right. Does anybody have any questions or comments from the residents related to any of those reports, the treasurer's report or the police report or any of the community reports? I see Monica. Go ahead.
So we also talked about, Linda, the inviting the author of this book
Yes.
to have an event. So she's replied and she said that she can make it. So she's given us the option of either the 12th of February or the 26th of February. So I got to take a look at what day it is. I think the 26th might be a Saturday, but basically she'd be reading this book for the kids via Zoom or some other place. The name of the book is Hair Like Me, and the author is Heather Burris. So I'm excited that she said yes. I mean, she replied to me right away. So that's super exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
That's awesome. Juan?
I think he's doing the hand clap.
Oh, it's a clap. Oh, you know
Yeah,
what?
I was just clapping.
I gotta start knowing the difference between what the signals are.
I mean, I am waiting once time to open it up for residents, but I don't think you're in that moment, correct?
I am in that moment for the report.
Oh, we are.
Yes.
Oh no, yeah, not. I'm just talking about once the floor is open for residents.
It is in relationship to the reports. Yes, we're open for resident comment. I think I saw Deborah Williams' hand up.
Just clapping.
Oh, you are clapping too. Okay, all right. Any other resident comments? Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the mayor's report. No.
Oh, I'm sorry. So that was the moment for residents. Oh,
yes.
I'm sorry. I got all kinds of confused. I do have two questions following to do follow-ups from past town meetings. One is, where are we in regards to the ESL classes? I don't think it's been brought up in any form of substance since October. Reviewing past meetings. Is College City still doing them? I think. Oh yeah. Doug Councilmember Bowles briefly brought it up, I think, on last meeting, but it was very brief. Like, oh yeah, ESL, that's about it. And the second question I have is, I'm happy to see that the interpretation for Zoom is active. That's awesome. That's great. I'd like to see it in French and Amharic also, but I'll take Spanish. Those are the two additional languages that most of our residents here speak. However, I do want to know, where are we on document translations? And town forms. A few months back, I can't remember when it was, a Grupo Hispano at Colmar Manor, we actually did a meeting in the town hall. Again, I can't remember, maybe 5 months ago, maybe plus or minus a month. And it was requirement that that people who entered had to fill out a form. The form was not in Spanish. None of our members could read it, so they couldn't answer it, and they had nobody willing to translate it until I arrived. So where's the town at with translating those important documents?
So I will just say to that question, just as of yesterday, I heard Abigail saying I'm in the process of recording the town meeting minutes right now. So I suspect when we get our next set of town meetings, they will be in English and Spanish. I am so sorry. I did not hear, I'm thinking about the waiver documents you're talking about. It slips our mind sometimes about, when you're putting together the waiver and I'm doing the translation, but yeah, not a problem. We're really focused on it. I mean, this is not something that's casual to us. We're trying to make sure that we do translate even on the big board down by the store. So, it's not arbitrary. It's something that stays on our mind. So if we miss something, let us know and we'll get to it.
And I'm sorry, I missed, what about ESL? I don't know if you mentioned it or not.
Oh,
I had somebody here.
Right, honestly, I mean, I'm hoping that, and I saw from something that came around that I'm hoping that the outreach, Hispanic outreach can help us in identifying someone to operate and do that. We have already, as a council, agreed to move forward. I think it's a matter of finding the right group or venue or whomever can actually accomplish doing that at this point. So when we can get something, a name or whatever, like we did with the interpreters, we're ready to move forward. Now,
and will this be with or without Cottage City?
I mean, if Dan was on the line, I could remember a little bit better, but what I understood that Cottage City was not going to continue at this point until they were able to get a little bit more interest. And Monica, I think you had some communication with them, right?
It's been a while, but I can circle back with them, and I mean, maybe this kind of merits some type of a proposal or maybe like a working group, because if there's money associated with it, I mean, you might want to team up with Casa de Maryland, you might want to team up with LAYC, which is in Riverdale, or with a local church. But I think it's it's kind of, it would have been great if Cottage City would have continued it. I can reach out to them and see if they'd be interested in doing some joint activity around that. But I still do think that, you know, this is kind of a big deal, and there should be some funds that are designated towards something like this. So it would be great to like work with some other council members or community members towards that.
Even if it's not joint, we can still move forward. So if there's something out there, you know, and I know the Cades still do interpretation. I don't know how often or whatever. We can find out what kind of schedule they work on and how do they advertise, being able to do it, especially during COVID. But they've always in town been available to help people with the ESOL learning. But thank you for bringing it up. Get some names out there, and then we'll do the reach out to try to find out what needs to be done and get it set up. Anything else? All right. Well, you have to stay on top of it. Thank you. Anybody else? Citizen comments? Okay, so moving on to the council report was one.
Sí.
I'm sorry, Ms. Campos.
Sí, yo quisiera saber si nos van a dar la respuesta ahora de si vamos a poder votar o cuándo nos van a responder. Estamos emocionados en querer votar.
Yeah, I imagine that next month we'll start to draft up something that we can all agree upon on the council. And then after going through whatever that language may be, the requirement is that it will be a charter amendment, and the charter amendment will have to be advertised 4 weeks in a row, and then brought to 50 days for ratification, unless some kind of a referendum goes into place. If a referendum goes into place and it delays that 50 days, and then after, if there is none, and after the 50 days, then the amendment is amended, and we're then open for whatever the change in the amendment is.
Ok, muchas gracias. Y una pregunta más. Si el correo electrónico no está correcto para llenar la aplicación de que los niños puedan participar para hacer sus horas comunitarias, ¿puede uno ir a la alcaldía a pedir ayuda para que le ayuden a llenar la aplicación?
Yes.
Ok, muchas gracias.
I'll explain that delay in a minute. Anybody else? Oh, Ms. Sanchez?
Hola, buenas noches. A mí me gustaría las dos temas de las votaciones y de las clases de inglés, porque es necesario aprender uno como madre un poquito de inglés y otra cosa, poder votar nosotros los hispanos o latinos que somos de nuestro condado.
Yes, ma'am.
Entonces necesito saber pues en esa ayuda,
Yes, ma'am.
ya que nos pueden ayudar, pues gracias a Dios, ¿verdad?
We will. Thank you.
Thank you. Gracias.
Monica?
If we can have something in writing, something posted up by this week, latest by Monday, that discusses what the next steps would be in regards to non-citizen voting. I think we're advocating, the Hispanic Outreach Committee is advocating for there not to be a referendum vote. I'm wondering, I'm not very familiar with the politics of the town, so I'm wondering if this is a council vote that can be taken. And I'm also looking I'm pushing for this to happen before the next election. So before the election in May, this is something that I'm going to be pushing for, that the Hispanic Outreach Committee is going to be pushing for, but we would definitely appreciate some type of clarity as to what the process looks like. And we'd also appreciate some type of a link on the site that gives more of an explanation as to what this is, and really just a concerted effort to really organize the thoughts around what this would look like in our town, and the resources that discuss this. I can certainly share the link where we had the different representatives from the different towns. That's something that you can use. I'd also like to see some data. I saw that the old Colmar Manor website used to have demographic data on the site. I don't think that we have them. I'm not sure. I haven't seen it on the current Colmar Manor website, but I think that's important. So yeah, if you all can make a commitment to kind of let us know what the process is so that we're all clear on it, that would be helpful.
All right, we'll work on it. Thank you. Deborah Williams.
Yes, good evening. Excuse me for being, for my rudeness, or my ignorance, if you will, but I'm not understanding what's being said in Spanish. And so if there is some form of interpretation that you guys are hearing, I'm not understanding what's being said. So I was gonna ask that prior to the questions that were presented, because I don't know what's being said in order to get a clear understanding. So that's one thing. I don't know how you're doing this because I'm not seeing anything on the screen that's denoting that. If I can get some form of explanation so I'll know what's being said or being asked, then that would be helpful for me. Miss Monica had mentioned a little bit earlier that she was willing to provide some information or provide I don't know if it's a website or whatnot in terms of the underserved, if you will, or understanding, if you will, what this is that we're trying to do. I need to know some more. I need to get better clarity so that I can make a sound judgment as well. If something could be put in the chat or something provided, that would help me as well, because I want to make an informed decision as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. Ms. Williams, if you can look towards the bottom of your screen, next to reactions, there should be a button that says translation. And if you click that button, it says English or Spanish. And so if you pick English, you'll start to hear the Spanish speaking people in English.
Thank you. This is interpretation. Thank you so much.
There you go. Thank you. Sorry you missed that. We got to probably do it a couple of times during the meeting to ensure that we catch up to everybody on how to get there. Right. So thank you. And yeah, so all I can do really at this point is I can prepare what would be my proposal that I will be sharing with the council to answer Monica's question. Yes, it is the council that makes that decision. I will also put out there the requirements of a charter amendment for everyone's review, unfortunately, and I didn't create it, but it's only in English. But I will see what I can do to do my own translation of it because MML prepared it, and like everybody else, they're still just doing everything in English. So, there's two paths. There's the path of the council voting, and then there's a path of a public referendum where the public can petition 20% of the qualified voters of the town to take it to a referendum and put it on a ballot. So those are the two paths to a charter amendment. And I will put that out. We will get that out. I'll get it out in English sooner than later, and then we'll see if we can get it interpreted and get it out in Spanish too. I hope that will be helpful in understanding, what happens in the process. So next.
May I ask a question? Wouldn't it affect several portions of the charter? because we would be potentially talking about more than one.
It's a couple, so, and it's very specific. A charter amendment has to touch one area. And so if you have to hit multiple areas, you have to do multiple amendments, although they can be done at the same time.
Right, okay.
But yes, there's a couple of different places. You got to read it through all the way to see where all the little pieces, droplets are in there. All right, I see.
Mayor, I just want to say I couldn't have said that better.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Barr. Appreciate that. Avia. I see Alvia's hand up, iPhone.
Yeah.
I just saying it wrong. I'm so sorry.
Sí, buenas noches. También con respecto a las clases de Zumba, que también quedó pendiente, no sé qué pasó. Si las van a dar también. Gracias.
You went back on mute before you finished.
Repito, con las clases de Zumba que habían dicho que iban a dar, no sé si las van a realizar o se quedó afuera esa parte. Gracias.
So we have Zumba on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. Currently at 7:15 on Mondays and
Pero
Wednesdays.
son pagadas o cómo?
They are $6 right now. I did talk to Miss Amelia, who is running them, about the process. I honestly feel like, we got caught into Omicron. We actually shut them down for quite a while. We only opened back up again last week. So there's really not been, I think, an opportunity to work out the details for what would be free. But they're $6, and then I think two for $10 right now. But I will bring that back up to her again as to what can be done in order to offer something for free. You didn't miss something. And it's not forgotten.
Gracias. ¿Y me puede repetir los días que dijo,
You're
por favor?
welcome. Monday and Wednesday at 7:15 p.m. and Saturday at 9:15 p.m.
Gracias.
You're welcome. All right, moving on. Next item on the agenda is the ward reports. Ward 1.
Sorry, phone's giving me trouble. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and go into it. Happy Black History. Though it is nationally acknowledged as the month, we honor and celebrate legacy every day. With my report, I'd like to pay gratitude to everything and every person that's gotten us to this point where we are able to make decisions that impact all. For Ward 1, we're still having this dog roaming problem. I'm not sure if anyone's seen this tiny, like, golden tan dog. It doesn't belong to anyone at this point. I feel like it's the neighborhood dog. I really would like to see someone claim this, but I'm sure Doug or Councilmember Bowles or someone within the 3rd Ward to 4th Ward area has seen this dog before. But since last year, it's been in my yard. It's walked up on my car before. And I don't know. I feel bad that it's in the streets, but at the same time, it's like, okay, well, you feel friendly enough to come around the humans, so someone's feeding you or something. Second, in correlation to dogs, the poop stations, people, please don't use it as your own trash can. We're experiencing that, and it's causing an overflow where people don't want to put their poop inside the station or pick up the poop anymore, because it's just like, okay, we don't have space, so we're just going to leave it there. And I unfortunately had poop in front of my house that stepped in. So now I'm experiencing it at a personal level, and I'd really like for people to just, care about your animal. And that would be my report.
Thank you so much. Ward 2?
So I would like residents to remind residents about parking rules in the community. And I've experienced a rather unpleasant incident myself of being blocked in my driveway about halfway through the driveway entrance point. And unfortunately, I had to call the police, and the police was able to identify the person who's a neighbor. And it's a very unpleasant situation for me and the neighbor, and I don't want to have this relationship with my neighbors. Well, because of this situation, I couldn't maneuver out of my driveway without damaging my car, damaging their car, or potentially hitting the gate or the side of the wall of my gate, of my fence. I mean, just a friendly reminder: be courteous to each other, be courteous to other neighbors, be courteous to pedestrians. Do not block someone's driveway. Do not block the walkway. It will force the pedestrians out onto the streets where potentially maybe another car coming and hitting the pedestrian. It was just a very negative incident. We share one car, and therefore my husband had to take Uber because he couldn't wait for the arrival of the police. He was late to work. Not to create this type of relationship with your neighbors. I want to remind them, be courteous. And for the police, it's also a call. If you see a parking violation, please do not hesitate to enforce it, to remind residents that it may be a potential hazard, health hazard. It may be a potentially an unpleasant situation, which we don't want to create in our community. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ward 3?
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Colmar Manor, Ward 3, and all wards. Just want to remind everybody that spring is on the way, and it will be here before you know it. I'm seeing signs of it in my yard. So be encouraged. February can be cold and ugly, but March brings the spring flowers, and we've already seen snowdrops and other things popping up their heads. So spring's such a time of renewal. The beautiful thing about nature is there's always a chance to come back and start again. And that's how we need to approach our town too, I think. No matter what happens, no matter what we have to go through, there's always a new day, and there's always a new chance to learn and grow together. So I just wanted to address a couple things in response to resident requests to address lighting issues in Ward 3, but also throughout the town. I did some research and presented to the council back in December, an ordinance produced in Pittsburgh regarding lighting there, and we'll continue to present information on that. And this week, I really appreciate that Chief Stone reached out, and we actually had a little drive about town on Sunday night. So your council and police are working even on Sunday evenings to go and take a survey of lighting. And so there were a couple of specific places that we looked at. I see that Ms. Williams is on the line, or was, so that was one place, but a few others that the Chief and I talked about that are particularly urgent at this moment. And so PEPCO has been approached, and we're looking into making some adjustments to those situations and hopefully bring some corrections to you as soon as possible. And I also wanted to express some gratitude to Mike Gorham, who's our public works head, because I had a couple of folks come up to me in Ward 3 and express that some lights were out. So he was able to teach me some things about how to do lighting, which I didn't know as a council member I had to do, but now I know, or at least I know I can. And so PEPCO did address those repairs. Just so you know, citizens, if there is a light out, citizens and residents, if you know that there is a light out and you report that, it can take up to 2 weeks for PEPCO to address it. So if you say something to me or to our public works or to our mayor, there may be a delay of a few days up to 2 weeks before that light is corrected. So don't think we didn't hear you. It just may take a moment. And in this case, it was really only about a week. So that was great. Also, thanks to Mr. Gorham and to Mr. Porter for quick response to resident requests for a poop station near the town sign. It has been placed. And so that's good to know. So now along Newark Road, there are 1, 2, 3, I think there are 4 poop stations on Newark Road from one end to the other. So one of our most heavily traveled roads. You have no excuse to put your poop somewhere other than a poop station. It has been addressed. I also had a chance to meet with our new code inspector and had coffee with him. He's a great guy. Get to know him. He cares about orderliness and keeping the town safe and clean and healthy. But he also has a really humane approach. So get to know your police officers, get to know your code inspector. They're here to keep order, not to punish. So keep that in mind. And they're mostly great guys, except maybe who's on here tonight? Mario. Yeah, Mario's trouble, but the rest of them are good. I'm just teasing. And also a reminder, our city trash cans are for occasional trash and for convenience. They are not for your household trash. So if you have a significant problem with household trash volume, please consider approaching the town about that and not overburdening our trash cans. And I know this is picky, but the holes in the rings in our trash cans are kind of small, and that's to keep rain out. So if you are putting trash on that trash can and you're not compacting it, you create an overflow problem. So please take the time to mush it all together and throw it down in the hole, because otherwise we end up with overflow. And then when you open the lid of the trash can, there's nothing in there. So please just push your trash on down in that hole. It's there for you, and we bought more this year and put them in. So just be thankful about that. Today I stopped at our CVS and I picked up my 3 N95 masks. The federal government has shipped masks to many locations, and they are now coming in and they are available to you. Our local CVS has N95 masks. Here is one. It is the double strap variety. I'm in a little state of confusion about this because I thought that the government said it was 3 per person, but our CVS informed me that it was 3 per family. Either way, either it's 3 free masks.
3 per person.
I thought so too, Mayor, but I know that they told me that, and they did also tell another resident that. So you do not have to buy anything. You do not have to give them your name. You simply go in and they will give them to you. They're right behind the counter. And they're also available at Walgreens. Walmart will be getting them mid-February. Not all stores will receive the shipment. So, you know, if you're there, check it out. If you're going somewhere to get them, maybe call ahead. But it really is great. They're free. You do not even have to shop there. Rite Aid, Costco, Giant Food, Safeway, Wegmans, and many other national chains. But right here in Colmar Manor, our CVS has free N95 masks. Go get them. We would like to, I also wanted to extend a welcome to Taylor Fain. Councilmember Mendoza and I had a lovely conversation about him today, and I was speaking with Mr. Lusk, the owner of our local shopping center, about Taylor. Taylor's the new management at our laundromat, and he plans a lot of changes there and improvement of services, and it's already looking a little bit better. Taylor is a veteran of the Gulf conflict. He's a retiree from the Marines. And he's a great guy, and I tried to meet him today, but I'll go back tomorrow. Also wanted to I've got some Ward 3 residents that are teaching their children, they're cleaning up, and they're teaching their kids to clean up, and it makes tears come to my eyes. I just think that's beautiful. Thank you for helping, and thank you for showing your children what good community membership is. I'm not going to say citizenship anymore. What is it to be a good member of a community and to care about your neighbors? And to start with your kids like that is just heartwarming. So I just want to thank you. It's beautiful to see it. Sometimes I clean up. We've only got 2 public works guys who have to take care of our building and our town. It's a lot for them. Not making excuses if there's trash on the ground, but there's trash on the ground. So please pick it up. And if you're throwing it, please don't. Please don't. Our town is precious to us. Please don't use it as a trash can. I know I talk a long time, but I have a lot to say. And one of these days we'll have a newsletter, and Councilmember Bowles won't have a reason to talk too much. I want to take a moment right now to remember the life of Kevin Ward. Kevin was the mayor of Hyattsville. And life got too much for Kevin. And Kevin chose to take his life. And the community has been thinking about him and processing this. I was not able to be at an event on Saturday led by our Senator Augustine, where people were brought together and given a chance to share feelings. And I regret that I couldn't be there. But the organization that Senator Augustine was representing that day, or that the representative was representing, is called NAMI, N-A-M-I. It is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And the discussion was led by Dr. Adrienne Lika, who provided the group with information and a space to just be together and share. Mental health is physical health. Your brain is an organ. Your emotions are chemical reactions. There is nothing wrong with having emotional issues and for reaching out for help. I know that in a lot of our communities, there are stigmas attached. Please free yourself from those stigmas and reach out to help. He shared a number. It's a community crisis center, 24-hour hotline. If you are having trouble dealing with life, with managing life, if you are, God forbid, considering taking your life, you can reach out to 1-800-273-TALK, T-A-L-K. The number equivalent is 1-800-273-8255. We've all been through so much in recent times, and suicides are increasing in our country. It's a time for us to reach out, and the smallest thing can make a difference in a person's life. The smallest thing, a smile. I know this sounds silly, but sharing a smile with someone who's on the edge, it could pull them back from the edge, you know? And the things that we're talking about in our community, playing music too late, throwing trash on the ground, yelling at a neighbor absentmindedly, these things, we're all stressed out, but everything we do affects another person. So I just ask you to be kind. We need a kindness revolution. And so, yeah. And I also want to mention that I would like to lift up the memory of the family and loved ones of Amir Lak, who lost his life this week. This problem is endemic. Prayers and good energy also for the people of Ukraine. Our beloved Ms. Hobbs, Councilmember Hobbs, was born in Ukraine. Let's all send prayers for an outcome that is good for everybody and for peace. And then I just wanted to also express gratitude. I've just had a really rich time recently reaching out to business leaders, delegates, neighboring council members, commissioners, mayors, collaborating organizations. I've just been on the phone a lot, trying to learn my job and trying to help our town by being connected in the ways that our older politicians here or our longer serving politicians here are. So I've been working hard to try to make those connections. And they are really interested in collaborating. We live in a community of communities. All of our municipalities are so small and so interconnected. It's beautiful. Reaching out for help. I reached out to Mount Rainier for a copy of their ordinance on their local police, I hate the word disciplinary board, in response to Chief Executive Alsobrooks's meeting this week where she discussed that. It was expressed there that local management of police issues was preferred in many municipalities. That's a commonly held feeling. So anyway, we'll know more about that, but I reached out immediately. Mount Rainier sent me their ordinance to start looking at. It's just amazing. Anyway, and then, yes. And I will leave it there. You know, this month is Black History Month. And last night in the Rec Council, we talked about Black History Month, Pride Month, Hispanic Heritage Month. I don't know, Melinda, is there an Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month? There is?
Yes.
You know, we live in a world where race is undeniably a part of the discussion. It's impossible to have a discussion where race isn't in it because people who looked like me made race an issue. And we still have to reckon with that. So race factors into every discussion we have, whether we want to or not. It just is a fact. I happen to believe race is a fallacy. We are the human race. And the fact that anyone is singled out because of the way that they look or where they're from, or if I can speak from a personal point of view, whom we love, is reprehensible. So anything that we can do as a community to take steps towards spreading understanding and love between all groups is beyond important. It's everything. And in the month of Black History, we have to remember that Black History Month is not a month, it's every day. Our culture is not American culture, it is American culture woven together in a fabric. You would not have American culture if you did not have Black culture. There are African elements woven throughout our music, our food, and our families in our blood. And so, you know, why do we have all these months? Because some people decided that some people didn't deserve to be treated the same. I would like to dream of a day when we don't need months because every day we love everybody. And I know that sounds innocent and Pollyanna, but that's the world that's in my head and that's where I want to live. And that's what I think Colmar Manor can be if we start to communicate with one another on that level. Everybody's pain matters. Black people were owned in this country. They were owned by other people for hundreds of years. And to this day, people are still trying to take the vote away from Black people. Black people are being shot because they're Black. That's not okay. That needs to stop. So this month especially, we're gonna think about our Black families and our Black friends. And next month we'll think about the next group. But just remember that in your hearts, there's so many reasons for us to love on each other. Let's find those reasons. I'm sorry, I'm talking on forever. I'm a preacher.
And I'm letting you do it too. Look at me.
I'm a preacher, y'all. Thank you. My love to Colmar Manor.
Thank you for those wonderful kind words. The only thing I would have to disagree with you about is that I really liked having the months, not because of the sense of just, oh, wow, we're just doing this month and not another month. But I just love being able to, when it's Asian Pacific month, we get to really learn a whole lot more about them. Or if there's Mexican History Month, we get to learn a whole lot more about that group. You know, I do like that immersion that takes place. While I don't disagree with us all being in the same boat together. But yeah, it's really, I think it's also just important that a lot of this is very emotional. In terms of what it is that we've all had to deal with at different levels, different ones of us in different places and different groups and whatever. And, you know, the fact that we can celebrate it here and there is a good thing, you know. So I'll move on to the mayor's report. I will mention the Four Towns had a meeting and we had some wonderful conversation in that meeting. One of the presenters, I can't think of an exact name, but one of the presenters was a mental health professional, similar to the conversation that we had with Senator Augustine on Saturday. It's impacted so many of us, Mayor Ward's circumstance and situation across the board. As Councilmember Bowles said, we're like a big family. If you guys only knew, I could only explain in Prince George's County with the Prince George's Municipal Association, Melinda knows, she's now the president-elect, 40 to 50 of us show up. We are there in support of one another. And MML is always telling us, it's like, how do you know what you guys are doing? Because they don't get all this participation everywhere else. And that shoulder to shoulder that happens in Prince George's County is heavy work. And I appreciate that. Mayor Ward was our treasurer for PGCMA, and he's going to be missed, and I can tell he's missed by his entire city as well. I want to say also, Mayor Sims passed away in the last week. Mayor Sims was the mayor at one point of District Heights, and not sure of his circumstances in terms of what happened. But we will miss him as well. He was a major part of the Maryland Black Mayors in founding that, and we really appreciate him. On a super good note, I want to say that I got a message from Senator Augustine earlier in the month that we showed up in the governor's budget for a grant for open space, which is to help beautify and improve our open space next to the KFC. And so we're super excited about getting that funding. And we're getting some help from Neighborhood Design Center in order to help us fill that out. Come on, guys, this is gonna be fun. So I'm really excited about that. Just put your good energy into the universe that doesn't somehow find its way outside of that budget. So it stays in the budget with everything, but I think we've got good favor in that sense. The cleanup that happened over the weekend. So I don't know if many of you remember Sergio. I'm sure Melinda probably does, off of 4300 block of Newton Street. But he always walked around the streets constantly picking up trash. He was always trash all the time. Just, you know, he liked to run the streets all the time. Roxanne, his wife, has established a cleanup group annually on his behalf. And they come together and they come and they do a cleanup. He was amazing. He would just go around and he'd have bags with him, and then he'd just leave the bags and then contact the county or somebody, and they'd all come and pick up the bags later on. And so that was that cleanup that you saw happen. And you know, that was Colmar Manor spirit at work.
That's beautiful.
It is, yes, yes. He has passed and left us, so she continues to honor him. And many people close to them come out and do that with them. So if you haven't paid attention or noticed, last week, the Michaels corporations did submit their application for development at the convenience store where the car wash is. Their intention is to put a gas station there with a convenience store and a small car wash. So they have to come to the public and talk to us. I hope all the council members have seen it, because I have them automatically go to you guys when they come across, so you can see if something's happening in town. So keep your eyes wide open for that, so that we can keep track. Ms. Williams, keep your eyes open for that if you need to talk to me about anything and how you can get involved more on that one, because I know that's right in front of your face. And then on another note, our administrative, Christian Ortiz, as you all know, Christian has resigned. He has got a wonderful job as a special assistant to the police chief in Mount Rainier. And he will be leaving on the 18th of the month. Abigail Diaz has got a wonderful job. She has a job with the Maryland Municipal League, and she will be leaving on the 18th of the month. As you might, if you know anything about what we have, that means we don't have an administrative staff at this point. So my focus as in this moment in time, and I hope everybody can clearly understand that, is actually in getting us staffed back up again. We have brought in a temporary, and I will tell you, she does not speak English. She is willing to, she does not speak Spanish. She is willing to use the interpretation on the phone, because it's actually pretty good these days to talk into the phone and let the phone say the words for you or whatnot. As we move forward to hiring, we will definitely be again looking for someone who speaks Spanish, because that's been super helpful. Actually having two people speaking Spanish has been very, very useful for us. But it's going to be really challenging ahead, trying to put these positions back together again as quickly as possible. There's tons and tons of positions open like everywhere, every town. Everybody is moving around and leaving, going in different positions. So, you know, feel for me, empathize for me as we go through this process of trying to fill these positions. The chief is also still in the process of fulfilling some vacant positions in the police department as well. And we also have a street cleaning position that is open. I'm hoping to get a resident in that position to keep our streets clean and beautified on a regular basis. So if you know any resident who's looking for a job, it's going to be about between $19 and $20 an hour, 20 days a week. And it would be great to have somebody from town that's doing that. And with that said, that's my report. Thank you. All right, so moving on down the line, we don't have any minutes to approve this month. And like I said, Abigail's working hard on making sure that when we get our minutes, we're also going to get English and Spanish so they can go out on the website for others to review who may not be able to be on this call and other calls in the past. Old business, the codification discussion. So we started talking about the codification. I sent you guys a note, Mr. Baden sent you a note, basically with American Legal being at, and we've all agreed we're going to pay for this. So right now it's just a matter of us making a selection. American Legal, if we went to 300 pages and we decided to look at that, since that was how much was for the other ones. Although American Legal says they don't think that we'll actually have to have 300 pages. But anyway, that's $6,595. Their annual cost, all included, is $450. They will be giving us 10 copies, and any additional copies would be 21 cents as we go forward and have new ordinances come forward. General Code, $6,000. Their annual cost was $1,195. They will provide us 2 costs, and their pages in the future will be $18. Muni Code is $8,350. Their yearly cost is $1,195. They will provide us 5 copies, and we have 20. Their future cost is $26. Of course, they all did a wonderful presentation at the last meeting that was given to us. I will offer no secret that I feel like American Legal was the group that I felt most impressed with. Not only that their annual cost is less, but I feel like General Code is so all over Prince George's County that just like Bates, we can get lost in the sauce, where American Legal is trying to really get a foot plant here, which means they have to pay a lot of attention to us going forward. If you guys want to have any more discussion, we can, or somebody can put a motion on the table.
Ooh. Does anyone feel like they have discussion for the greater good of the conversation? Without hearing anything, I, Councilmember Harding, move that we accept the proposal for codification services from General Code dated, today's date, right? February 8th, 2022. Today's date, right?
What is it? February 8th, 2022.
February 8th, 2022. Is there a second?
I will second that motion. Councilmember Bowles, Ward 3.
Discussion. Why?
Well, I told you before that I was impressed with, I believe it was American Legal, but it was also the Millennial. Their page looked good. It was appealing as far as how it was set up. But at the end of the day, we're doing the same service between General Code and American Legal. When I go to General Code and I see how much they're used within our area, that leads me to believe that they're very reliable. And I remember them saying that with American Legal, they could have someone sent out to us, but we'd be paying for their stay or something along the lines of that. Whereas General Code, they're around the area, so we can call them and have someone come out at any time. And that just made me lean towards them a little bit more in the process. Yeah, I mean, that was just my thought process on that.
Yeah. So this is like forever. We're going to be spending, I feel like I'm doing the speed bump conversation again, that we would be spending $600 and some dollars more every single year for this group. But I would also throw it on the table that, Bates is widespread in the area. I don't think you could respond to the question the same way that means that will be more tension. I think it's just the opposite. They're so commonly used to Prince George's County. They're so commonly used to being in Maryland. It's just like, throw something at you. I would just ask you guys to trust my 22 years of experience in dealing with these groups and companies and how these things work in the political realm, and consider what I'm suggesting.
I don't disagree with you, Mayor, but in the same scenario, if Bates was a company outsourced from a different state, how likely would they be to show up at our town meetings the way that they have without us having to come out of pocket?
Yeah, they all said that they don't generally come out to they do everything sort of electronically. They all do that. They're all going to do that.
Which
But
goes back to the code and saying that if people aren't viewing our town, how can they generally know what is happening or generally know what we need as far as what the code is, you know? And that's why I say general code has much more leniency for me, because I can call them and say, all right, well, let's do a canvas of the neighborhood and you tell me generally what do you see in comparison to the codes that you've done for other towns. Do you believe that we can pull from some of the things you've done to create our own type of code or policy, and just more collaborative work in a physical sense than us talking to someone over a virtual call? And if we want to see them in person, it'll cost us.
So I hear you. I'm ready to move forward with the codification. I am very in disagreement with us making an agreement to spend this additional money. I do not think that we're necessarily going to get any better service. I think better service comes from somebody who's trying to get into the market, because when they're trying to get into the market, they have to impress you so that they can impress the next person, and you get the best attention from them when that happens. And access to whatever general code is done will be available to American Legal as well. I was impressed that American Legal showed up in the first conversation we had about this without us even telling them. They knew that we were having a meeting and they made sure they were there. So I will not vote for general code. If that is the way that we vote today, I just want to go on the record that I am in agreement that we need to move forward with the codification, but I will not vote. I think it's a financially incorrect decision for our residents and taxpayers. So I will open for any other discussion. Okay, then I'll call for a vote. Ward 1.
Aye.
Ward 2.
Aye.
Ward 3.
Aye.
Ward 4.
Aye.
And the mayor votes no. So we'll move forward with general code in the club with everybody else.
Is there a second motion I was supposed to make?
Councilmember Bowles already made the second motion.
No, I think Mr. Baden said we need to make a
you mean
motion
you
to
have to
transfer the
make a
funds.
motion to transfer. You know, I thought we put this in the budget somewhere.
Hola,
Anyway,
¿puedo hacer una pregunta?
it can't hurt.
Para ir al CVS a
Yes.
recoger las mascarillas, uno tiene que presentar algún número o el condado le va a mandar a uno un mensaje de texto para uno presentar al CVS o cómo se va a hacer.
You can go now. And no number is needed.
Sorry, do you just go to like the front and ask them for it, or do you go to the pharmacy and ask for it? Like you speak to like a salesperson?
Yes, ma'am. They're right behind the sales counter. And all you have to do is say you're there for your mask. They handed me 3 today. They did not require any proof of identification, any proof of residency, any proof of anything. They just gave me my masks. They're for all of us to protect each other.
Disculpe, yo fui ahora a comprar a CVS como a las 5:30, pero no me dieron nada.
They just began last Friday, I believe. I was there today, and so I can't speak to what happened a few days ago, but I was there today. And the gentleman had a huge pile of them behind the counter and was able to just hand them and give them right to me. So maybe try again.
Sí, voy a ir mañana y las voy a pedir porque como no sabía, yo no pedí nada, pero mañana voy a volver a ir y voy a pedir las mascarillas.
Sure. And you can see them right behind the sales guy. They're right there in boxes. You can see them.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, so is there a motion to transfer the funds for the codification and to establish a number for codification?
I, Councilmember Harding, move that we transfer $6,000 from unreserved funds to a new line item in the general government budget named Codification Project to pay for the cost of the codification of the town code or ordinances.
There's a second?
Councilmember Hobbs seconded. Thank you.
Hobbs. Is there any discussion? All right, call for a vote. Ward 1,
Aye.
Ward 2,
Aye.
Ward 3,
Aye.
Ward 4.
Aye.
Mayor votes aye. All right, funds will be transferred to a line item. Moving on, the next item on the agenda is the circuit rider discussion. So you guys are aware that, well, we are increasing the amount that we pay for the circuit rider, and that's been handled. But apparently they never billed us for last year. I sent you an email that kind of like went through what that was. It was $2,500 last year, and they never built us. So that budget's long gone. So we need to transfer $2,500 in order for us to go ahead and bring that up to date. And that is what Mr. Baden has put this on here for. So can we get a motion to transfer $2,500 to the circuit rider budget item?
Ma'am, is that also from the general fund, or is that coming from another source?
The general reserve.
Okay, so I would make the motion to transfer $2,500 from the general reserve to the account intended for circuit rider. I hope I worded that right.
Yeah, that's perfect. And second?
Councilmember Harding, I'll second it.
Well, I mean, those are Harding.
I'm still on,
That was
so I guess
Harding.
me, Harding.
Okay. Okay, any discussion? Call for a vote. Ward 1,
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, sorry.
Ward 2,
Aye.
Ward 3,
Aye.
Ward 4.
Aye.
Okay, mayor votes aye. Okay, moving on to COVID leave policy. So you guys have asked me to do a summary of what our protocols would be, and I sort of try to put together what they might look like for the different types of scenarios or circumstances that may come to play. And I welcome any of your comments or thoughts on these types of decisions. But in addition, we also said that we were going to talk again about what we might be able to do for sick leave, and I just had some suggestion. So my suggestion was that if someone is sick, they will be required to take sick leave. If they are not sick, they will be provided an administrative leave for 1 day with an official note stating their exposure. I should say note, not note. Any thoughts?
Oh, that was good. I didn't really have much on that.
Louis wants to speak up.
Yeah, Councilmember Louis Bowles has got an opinion. Apparently. Sorry, so we're saying that if, I'm so sorry. So if David is coming in the door and he's losing his mind. So my question is, I'm sorry, Mayor, could you restate, this is in the case of a positive test or a potential exposure? Okay,
so let me just read the whole piece I wrote here. Staff members are provided rapid tests to keep home in the case they feel sick and/or are reported to have been in contact with somebody infected by COVID-19. they are instructed to take 2 rapid tests in no less than 24 hours of each before returning to work.
Sorry.
If they are sick, they will be required to take sick leave. If they are not sick, they will be provided administrative leave for up to 1 day with an official note stating their exposure. In other words, they would need to provide something that indicates that they were told they were exposed. I think that the tracer people who contact you will give you an email or something like that. I know that the schools send a letter specifically home saying that your child was in close contact with someone with COVID and things like that. So this would at least give them 1 day if we're telling them to stay home. I don't want exposed people coming to the office. Here, if they,
so there's I guess my thing is there's a difference between exposed and symptomatic as opposed to exposed and asymptomatic.
right. Except we know very well that asymptomatic people are spreading COVID.
Right. I'm just thinking of the CDC guidelines. I know it. If you're exposed but asymptomatic, I think they're requiring masks, but not absence, I think. Am I correct? God, this thing's complicated. Symptomatic.
Well, it changes
to me,
every
symptomatic
month.
is very symptomatic to me is clear. They need to stay home and get tested immediately. But if they've had a potential exposure, but they are asymptomatic, you're saying that we would still ask them to stay home and get tested. So the proposal is for the same procedure for in both of those cases. I see. Okay. And we would be, so you are asking us to support adding a day of admin leave for each time that potentially happens. So there would be no upper limit on the number of times where an exposed person could be given a day of administrative leave if they're exposed.
No, I mean, I think that we have to go with a little bit of trust here because this is a balancing act. And I feel like the other side of the balancing act is a little bit scary. And I can give you an example. So one of the employees who was told they were exposed was not sick. And wind up having COVID. So if they still had come to work not sick at that time, then we all would have been exposed because they weren't sick. They were just exposed. They eventually got really sick. But if we didn't say stay home under that note of exposure, we would have been getting exposed for the day or so that it took for them to get their results back. I'm having a hard time accepting that. That's
you know how conservative I am on this. If it were up to me, we'd still be closed until March 1st. So I'm very conservative on exposure. My concern is just as a matter of practice. To me, I remember Mr. Baden saying something about University Parks Council voted to grant an additional 7 days of leave to each employee. Is that correct, to cover this sort of scenario? Which is attractive to me because it has a number attached to it. I mean, if you're exposed more than 7 times, you're really, I don't know what you're doing. You know, if you think you've had 7, I'm just wondering if there's a way to put any kind of upper limit on it. Just as a matter of just good business practice.
I don't have a problem with that. I mean, you get exposed up to, I would say up to.
Are you comfortable with those 7 days, Mayor? Because that seems reasonable to me.
I mean, it seems high to me because once you put like a number on there, it just makes you think if somebody's going to go, like, I got 1 more day, like it's really.
I hear your point.
It's like, oh, I got a couple of more. I mean, and they start thinking of it as actual loot in their
Same,
bucket.
you could argue the same though for unlimited. They could be like, oh, I want to go to the lake this weekend. I had an exposure. It's Friday morning. I mean, like you said, we have to trust people, but at the same time, we can't say to the town, we're just going to give leave every single time someone might have. Mr. Barr's got his hands up.
Okay, and I'm gonna, just before grabbing it, throw out what about 5? And then I'm gonna go to Mr. Barr. Mr. Barr?
5 to me sounds reasonable.
Same.
Okay, so let's go up to 5.
Mayor,
Yes.
I was just going to say, do you want to put this in the personnel regulations?
Yes, this will be an official resolution for the personnel regulation.
We want to type this in stone? Because that's what it'll be. Easy enough to.
We need to say, I guess, per year, because I don't know.
Yeah. Between
COVID.
the date of the adoption of this personnel regulation and 1 year from this date, this benefit will be withdrawn.
Well, I want to ask if we want to go retroactive, because it has already
go back
happened
a
that
year.
we sent people home. And they were home for more than 1 day. But I'm trying to limit it to just 1 day, especially now that we have rapid tests, because before then things weren't as efficient as they are these days.
Mayor, can you remind me, how many sick days do our employees presently get per year?
Oh, I think 2 weeks for full-time employee is 2 weeks.
2
for
business
full-time
weeks, or
It's like the old federal
business
system.
days. I mean, 2 weeks of business days.
so 10 total days of sick leave?
Yes,
Okay.
per year. Prorated per the number of
I see. And
hours.
so the proposal is to increase it by 50%. Okay. I see. For just a period of 1 year, according to Mr. Barr's suggestion.
I would say yes. With a COVID review at that point. Looks like everybody will have had COVID by then.
Well, you don't know what's gonna come here. So I think, Mayor, your suggestion of a review at the end of the year, rather than this ends on April 15th, 2024. I would put something in there that unless reviewed and extended by this date, the benefit granted herein shall expire, and put a date in.
Okay.
Move that date all around.
So do you guys want Mr. Barr to put the language together for us before we vote, or we basically vote on what we're agreeing to now, and then he can put the language together afterwards?
The other question I have is, when we say retroactive, do we mean retroactive to January 1 or retroactive to fiscal year?
Yeah, I would do retroactive to the fiscal year. Now, reminding you guys, this money doesn't come out of our taxpayers' pockets. This money comes out of ARPA, because it's specific to COVID.
So your cost is a -0 or +0. There's no such thing as either, but it's 0.
Um,
I didn't get pizza. My stomach hurts.
This,
I'm
does
not
this
opposed to it.
require, I mean, I'm sorry, Councilmember Harding, I'm trying to remember, I wish Mr. Baden was here for this question, but any funding that we use from ARPA has to be done as a budget transfer, is that correct?
So if you look at our, it's not true. What we did do was we stuck some, I think it was $50,000 into a line item for us to use. As a matter of, so this one, let's see. So we literally, and so I don't think Mr. Bain remembers, if you look at the last page, so we literally actually broke down money for ARPA, which we had family and business support, 135,000, the summer youth program, 60,000, vaccination plan, 5,000, special funds, 173,700, and then lost revenue, 149. Now we can always move that around however way we wish to move it around, but we did actually create line items that can actually be used at any given point in time when we want to use ARPA funds without having to make a transfer for that purpose. So basically, this policy would state that staff members are provided rapid tests to keep home in the case they feel sick and or are reported to have been in contact with someone affected by COVID-19. They are instructed to take 2 rapid tests in no less than 24 hours of each other before returning to work. If they are sick, they will be required to take sick leave. If they are not sick, they will be provided administrative leave for up to 1 day per incident of stated exposure with a note indicating the exposure. If staff, I would add retroactive to the fiscal year beginning July 2021. If the staff tests positive to COVID, they are to isolate until they get 2 negative rapid tests in no less than 24 hours apart, or they get a negative PCR test result. I would also add that if we're making changes to the personnel manual, that we include the fact that staff members do have access to N95 masks. Staff members are required to be vaccinated. And staff members are required to wear masks when in rooms with someone else and when traveling the building. So everything from 9 down would be a personnel policy matter, at least a temporary personnel policy matter.
I don't have a problem voting.
I would like to move forward with that, especially since we're going to have new hires. I would really like to have it on the record about this vaccinate, that they're required to be vaccinated. Chief Stone?
You just answered my one question. I was like, is this the point that we talk about future hires being vaccinated? That was my A question. And as far as fiscal impact, I don't know that there is any fiscal impact. It's unlike when we had the hazard pay that people were paid extra hours and overtime, however that all worked out. But in this case, it's already part of their salary, if you know what I mean. If they're, it wouldn't be an extra salary.
I mean, you guys understand what the chief is saying. It's like, it's still 365 days in the year, 2,080 work hours in a year, and that doesn't change. So you're still spending the same amount of money. It's just that you're getting less work out of the person because of the extra days.
So would the motion be to accept your apology, your COVID policy, with the changes with Mr. Barr or from Mr. Barr?
All right, that sounds good. The second.
This is Councilmember Mendoza. I'll second that.
Any discussion? I want to tell you that the picture behind you, Councilmember Harding, is a beautiful picture. Well selection. Any additional? Okay, I'll call for a vote. Ward 1.
Aye.
Ward 2.
Aye.
Ward 3.
Abstain.
Ward 4.
Aye.
All right, Mayor votes aye. All right, thank you, guys. Let's move on. We're getting there. Where's my agenda? Next item on the agenda. Okay. Okay, so retreat facilitator. I don't really intend for you guys to take any action on this right now. And I wanted to share with you what Dan sent over from University Park. So you can take a look at that and see if it suits what we might be interested in. And then we can see if he can get more before our work session in March and see. But if you have a chance to look over it, you have any questions or anything that you want to bring forth in this moment. What I found interesting in her approach was that she, or I'm saying she, like I think it's a she, anyway, that they had 2 kind of separate meetings to try to work out what they're trying to accomplish and what they were trying to do by phone, by individuals, and then they made the plan for the full day meeting as it would be. I've seen it done many different ways. I know Malik is, I know most of y'all probably have been involved in like strategic planning type of things. And I'm thinking of it in both ways as a team retreat, but also strategic planning because we have so many things to plan for going forward and creating a mission statement and vision and mission statements, something that we want to get done. But there were individual phone calls, and the last time End Time Harvest Ministries went through their process where they would call and literally have conversations with individuals, and I think that would be a good idea so that people can feel comfortable saying what they need to say to an independent person without feeling like they're in the middle of being judged by somebody else who they're going to see later on a regular basis. So that was the kind of approach I was thinking about, is that we get somebody who will communicate with us individually, maybe a couple of citizens individually, see where we stand from an independent person's point of view, and then build out the plan of the retreat. So are we okay with sort of trying to put this on the agenda for a decision in March?
Sounds great.
I would like to just put in, believe me, I'm all about team building. I'm not sure the spirit of it. Some of the language sounds like we're discussing bringing in a mediator to a dysfunctional family. Some of the language is leading me in that direction, and I don't see us as a dysfunctional family. And then the other issue that's Monica Casañas, bless her, when she brought up the idea that this could wait until May, I don't know of anyone challenging yourself, Mayor, but if there was a change in the mayor, we would have to do this again and then spend this money twice. So I'm not sure if it makes more sense fiscally to wait until May, because if you continue as mayor, it's going to be this team. And if you don't, it's going to be a different team. So either way, it could be useful for us then and could potentially be a cost that we would have to expend twice.
Well, actually, I mean, from the reading I got on what they just recently did, it was like at least 60 days in the process of what they had got done. So either way, I'd like to be in motion towards it. Doesn't mean that we have to sign an agreement for it beforehand. But in terms of the language, I just wouldn't put it that way, but I would say that I would like to get to a point where we understand our differences, and I feel like we have them. I want us to embrace that as real and learn to communicate from that, standpoint. I mean, people have differences in their backgrounds and the things that they go through in their lives and how they get raised or what they have to deal with tend to literally create who that person is and how that person thinks. But then we all thinking from our own heads and don't see what someone else thinks and don't see the other side. And so doing these kind of things is how we hope to see the other side from somebody else who doesn't necessarily come from the other side. And so, yeah, I wouldn't use that terminology, but I would say that getting to know for real each other better will make for a better team. And for the most part, I think that's the reason why people bring in facilitators. I've been a facilitator before, so I've been on the other side of going through the process, and it's very useful. I often get hesitant about having a facilitator, so I know how to do this. I've been a facilitator before, So, but then I realize it's like, no, I'm really too far in the middle of it. So that's when you have to go like, no, need that independent out there.
To me, the last time we were together, you used the term diversity and you said that our diversity hat could be our strength.
Yes, I agree.
And when I hear, but the word diversity is loaded, and for the last week since we met, I've been wondering what it is that you feel isn't working and why you would credit that to diversity, because I'm not sure. I feel like tonight's meeting, for instance, like we really bonded. I don't see us as a dysfunctional council, but I'm wondering if that's what you're saying.
I don't feel like I'm heard. I don't know why. I don't know why nobody called me when Breeze was going in a breakdown. I don't know why. So there is a disconnect from that experience. So I can't solve it. I've been, like I said, I got the luxury of like operating within a group that, cohesively kind of understood everybody, but I can promise you, I would have been hearing from Ms. Blue, Ms. Jackson. Cynthia's kind of quiet, so she might not have said anything, but of course I heard from Melinda, who was like, there's something going on. Let's like see how we get back together and pull it back together again. And I would have been hearing that loudly. I don't know why Malik didn't feel like he could tell me what he was doing in the basement when I would have had no problem with it and would have been excited for it. But I would love to continue in this position. There's so much more. I'm excited about the new jobs that everybody's getting and going and whatnot, but also excited about the fact that I'm getting procedures written down that I couldn't get done for quite some years. So it's all exciting and whatnot. But I want to know how that relationship is close. Those relationships are closer, and I would like to have them be. And I don't think that any of you are going to be different people than who you are. But if we know each other and expectations from each other and how each other feels about how they need to feel in order to feel comfortable, then we can all do it better together. So I have made a decision. It's been a difficult one to make a decision of whether or not I wanted to tread down this path anymore. It's been a really, really hard 2 years. I feel like 2 years got completely stolen away from what I wanted to try to accomplish, but I want to find the diversity that works. And even with our earlier conversation today and what we're talking about, I want to find the diversity that works. I don't want diversity where one set of diversity overcomes the other set of diversity and takes over and takes over and then takes over. We all need to be bringing everybody together and not just going one side. Oh, everybody can come in, you all come in, now you all do it this one way and we're all gone and boom, just leave everybody else behind, because that's what happens when you don't all see the being on the page together and seeing the difference of how somebody might operate. And I just hope I'm being honest here. Because I love you all, my Colmar Manor people. I really do. I'm coming on 40 years around here. So, but you know, I'm being super duper honest when they say, you know, Melinda's mother should vote. I don't disagree with people when they say, oh, somebody's been here 20, 30 years. Melinda's mother should vote. I've grown up, my children have grown up with her children. It should be. Abigail's mother should be able to vote, you know. And I truly believe that. How we move forward down the path beyond that is something that I think we all need to talk about. But anyway, getting back to the retreat, you know, I can hold off on it. I did not want to hold off on the conversation about us thinking about and considering it, and making sure that it's something that, because we kicked it down the can a whole year.
Yeah, I know. I mean, my concern is also that I've been asking for work on the charter as a group for almost that entire year too. And I would like to have that as well, to sit down and really overview our document as much as we can. And I want to echo something you said last week, Mayor, that was really, you know, I think we all started thinking about it in the Mike Hunninghake meeting, you know, that we've gotten a lot done. Like there's been a lot done. It hasn't been a useless year. It hasn't been a wasted time since this particular council came together. I'm pretty proud of a lot of the stuff
Sure.
that we've done. I have hope for us.
I do too. Absolutely. I mean, I think there's so much more that can happen, and I completely appreciate that, you know, some of y'all's focus areas and you bringing in AFTA and going through this process. You know, I forgot to mention the mayors have put on the mayors we've been communicating. I forgot to mention that we're trying to set up a mental health virtual session on Blacks and mental health this month. So we're going to be meeting tomorrow.
That's awesome.
Say it again.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know I was on mute. Sorry. I was talking.
So yeah, we talked about just having a speak session to talk about Blacks' opinions about mental health and process through mental health, because it's at so many different levels. And then, you know, traditionally from where I came from, and this comes down to diversity and what you do with it. But, you know, it was the world of what? Men? I ain't got no crazy people. I ain't got no crazy children. There's no craziness. We don't do crazy, you know. Just pull yourself up the bootstraps and keep going, you know. And that is the real
pray on it. And pray on it, just pray.
Yeah, pray on it. That was, so much of that is in the world that we come from, and, and trying to pull those layers of onions off of yourself so that you can actually get help when you need it has been really hard in Black in particular, and maybe other communities as well. I don't know, but I bet there's a lot of communities that go through that. But anyway, I forgot to mention that as well. But yeah, I think that we have, and sometimes you have to take a stop and say, let's, because so many folks are still asking for things that they want that they haven't gotten, and at the same time, there's something that's happening every day, and so sometimes it's hard to build that realistic goal of what can we actually complete in a day. Or within a week or in a month. And it's like, well, wow, I'm waiting for, this to happen and this hasn't happened yet, but there's something else over here that did happen. And when we don't take pause and look at it like we did when we were talking to Mr. Hawkins, you just don't, you feel like all you're thinking about is those things that you're not getting done and not realizing that, oh yeah, well, these things did happen still. But I'm just gonna put it on the agenda for next month, and we can do whatever we want with it when we get there. How about that? So the next item on the agenda is the authorization of the purchase of the server. So that would be line item 5194. It has already been budgeted for. It's one of those things, we budgeted for it. We should have done it from the very beginning, and the question is why we didn't. If we could get that budgeted for, if we could go ahead and approve the spending on this server, if I could share, I don't know what's going on. I come in here and the guys are playing musical chairs all the time. And I'm like, why are you playing? Why are you over there? Now you're over there. And they're like, well, because this computer won't do this. And they said that, until the server is upgraded, we're not going to be able to use these programs over here. So I have to go to this computer and use this because it has the old program on it. And this has new programs on it. And new programs won't work with the old server. And so when we get a new computer, the new computers don't work with the old servers. And so they're playing musical chairs in the room in order to get things done. And I was just looking at it today and I was like, I'm done. We already agreed to pay for this. So if we go ahead, vote on it, I can give the instruction to Mr. Baden to go ahead and get this moving so we can.
I'm so excited about that, Mayor. One question that comes to mind, if we go, because sometimes it works the other way, that an old software, when you move forward, doesn't work on the new operating system. So if we move forward, is there anything we need to move for that to upgrade softwares, or will this cover everything?
We're probably gonna have to upgrade the software. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm like, well, why did they give us the new software if they knew it wasn't gonna work on our server? They manage it both, but sometimes softwares get discontinued. And so there's no support for them and they have to give you the new software. And, but upgrading software is way easier and less expensive than upgrading servers. So
the 8,000 is strictly for the server upgrade.
That's for the server upgrade. That's what it is. Yep.
I want to make sure we don't lose any data when we move forward. The new system can't read this.
They do. We have regular backups and, I'm like IT nerdy, so I will be making sure that I know it can see, where those backups are before anything happens. So can we get a motion to go ahead and approve funding for our IT as budgeted?
I'll make that motion as stated, Mayor. Sorry, Melinda.
Second.
I'll second that. Councilmember Mendoza, I'll second that.
Okay, great. Any, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oops,
Aye.
This is money. I have to call for a vote. I'm sorry. Any discussion on Ward 1?
Aye.
Ward 2?
Aye.
Ward 3?
Aye.
Ward 4?
Aye.
And the mayor votes aye. All right, we get that moving forward. And then last item I have here then is, so the cleaning for the building. Mr. Gorham gave us 2 proposals. But I wanted to ask you guys, do you guys know what we do to clean the building?
Watched your video you sent.
You got the video? Oh, you watched it?
Yeah,
Okay.
hazmat suit and everything.
Well, Daddy, open it. What?
Chief, let's see the video.
Hello?
It's R.
Yeah, what happened?
Was asking.
Can you
the
hear
chief-
me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I'm off. I'm back to being, I'm on, whatever I said. I'm gonna unmute myself or mute myself. Thank you, Bongo.
Sure. You there, Chief?
I am here now. I was, I will try to do, I've never shared a video. That's as much video as I do.
All
I've
you,
never-
so all you're doing is you're sharing your screen, and then it'll show you everything you have open, and then you pick the one screen that you want.
Here goes, maybe nothing, but we'll see.
You turned the music off?
I lowered it at least. That was special music, you know.
Thank you very much, Chief. Appreciate it. So I wanted to point that out when we got the numbers. I mean, and we had gotten these numbers a few years back, a couple years ago, when the virus first came out, and it was everybody one is like coming out to all of the different meetings to come and do the disinfectant. And I'll tell you the reason why we didn't go there was if you ask them the question, how long and how effective is this? And they'll tell you until the next person walks in the room. And we're like, okay. So if you do it once a month, it lasts once a month and one day. It lasts one day a month. So we went the other way. We went and we purchased the blowers. I think we have a couple of them. We purchased the sprayers and we purchased the actual same stuff that most of them all use. And we do this after every event. So when Breeze finishes up on Wednesday night, after they take the tablecloths off and before they take the tables up, Ronald will go around and just spray all the chairs and the tables and everything as they're just getting in the process of packing them all up. And then I can't say enough, if any of you ever come watch a video of Ronald cleaning, he pretty much doesn't miss a spot. I mean, it disinfected everything. And I just don't know if we really need to spend this extra money right now because they are doing a really good job at this. And for as long as since we open, it's every event. After whatever events, even when we opened up the private events, Ronald comes in after each event. If we can't get that scheduled, we don't have it. Unless it's like a Saturday night and nobody's coming in on Sunday for the whole day. And so we may have that, but I just think that our public works has been doing as good a job as these professional companies would. And they're talking about just $1,700 for one visit or one day to do that. So
Yeah, that sounds pretty pricey, Councilmember Harding, Ward 1. I guess I only have two things as far as sentiment to add to this conversation. I feel like for a long time we go with the standard and it's okay, but it stops us from the potential of knowing what's possible. So in regards to the second thing, I saw in the video a bunch of times that there was 99.9% clean, 99.9. So that 1% was able to take out at least 5 of our staff members from all the cleaning that we've been doing. And I just have to acknowledge the fact that this is a company that we're going to be paying to do professional cleaning. And this is the brand that will be on the line. So in addition to the cleaning that you all are doing, I only see it benefiting you, benefiting us. And that being said, because it will create a new standard of clean, because they'll be bringing their professional team. I'm not saying that our public works aren't doing a great job or aren't doing a professional job of cleaning, but I'm saying that we have an advantage of getting people that'll come there specifically for this because they do have a lot to maintain. And sometimes it's hard to create that vision of something when your mind's everywhere else. So I hear your point on the cost amount and having the equipment already. I personally just see it as something that could go hand in hand with what we're already doing and create a cleanlier environment.
I'd just say that, first of all, I don't think 1% in this building, I have no reason to believe anybody got COVID in this building. Almost everybody that got it, there is an outside, there was a clear outside opportunity for them to get it, if I can put it that way, meaning exposure. So I don't think it happened in this building. So I don't think that 1% did that. But I think that the same 1% exists on everybody else's on the cleaning crews and whatnot. But you know, if you guys want to spend $1,700, and one of these quotes is $3,750, but I guess once a month, or it comes out of the ARPA money, so that can happen. I don't know how, I mean, I'd just rather give $1,700 to somebody in the neighborhood who needs help getting some groceries.
I hear the
Yes.
spirit of what you're saying. I'm sorry, go ahead, council member.
Sure. So, yes, for me, I've looked at both proposals. It is rather pricey, but I'm also looking at it at, like the private in-home services, like some people are ordering for cleaning, for a deeper cleaning, and they can do the upkeep. So I can see the benefit of doing the professional cleaning after maybe a major event, or if we have some sort of a once a month, if we establish like a calendar. And then our staff can be doing the upkeep of maintaining after maybe small events or on other occasions. That was it. Councilmember Bowles, please go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, thank you. I was just going to say that for me, I see it as like I remember when we were first elected and I was asking about our public works team being so small, and I heard, well, we've got this 20,000 square foot building that they've got to take care of and the town. So for me, it's less about the COVID because, as you said, Mayor, we've got the Mr. And we've got Ronald, and so it sounds like post events we're kind of good with the COVID situation because we've got the Mr. and we're covering the air. And as you said, when somebody walks in 10 minutes later, for me, it seems like it's a cheaper alternative to hiring more full-time staff, because if we're only spending $1,200 or $1,500 a month on a professional cleaning crew that can take some of that burden off of Mike and Jerome, I'm just wondering, forget COVID and just treat them as a cleaning crew and see if there's a way that takes some burden off of Mike and Jerome so that they're not overwhelmed and they can turn their attention elsewhere. And then we put back in the person you mentioned, the part-time person. And again, we can hire from inside the town, but I'm seeing them not as a COVID measure so much as just helping out our public works to be more effective. And 12 times 12 would be like $15,000. That's not a salary, and there's no benefits that we'd have to attach to that. So to me, it would be.
It's actually the cheaper one is $1,700, so it would be $20,000.
Even so, that's cheaper than a full-time employee and no benefits paid out. So it seems like to me that could be helpful to our staff.
Yeah, well, I'm in a higher support of that option than paying an outside firm to do it. Maybe there's some upgrades that can be done to make it more professional or whatever. But in terms of large events, largest event we've ever had in this building, from what from what I can tell, the largest event we ever had in this building was Renee's Funeral Services. And that's so super rare. I mean, nothing ever came close to anything like that before. And so I don't think we'll have things like that, but I could imagine, Councilmember Hawks, that after that event which was so strenuously crowded, bringing in a firm with the additional support would have been a prudent move for something like that. Breeze is generally 40 to 50 people, and the other events usually run around. I mean, most are about the same size. Most of our events around that size, under 100 people. So I don't know which would be defined as large, but I'm not opposed if we have something that is like really big, large like that, is to call in somebody and say, could you come in and just do this whole thing? Because this was so big, Courts in y'all's, balls in y'all's court. I think, I probably favor spending another $20,000 for another part-time person.
Would anybody mind if I move to table this to the next work session?
I don't.
I would like to make a motion to table this discussion to our next work session so that we can gather more information. I actually also have a neighbor who has a professional company that he wanted to recommend. So we can throw additional ones in with Councilmember Harding's suggestions, as well as as Mr. Baden's suggestion. I'm getting very, very tired. I know we all are. And I would just like to move that we table this until the next work session.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Because I guess it's a line item, we have to officially table it. And so that was a motion to table. Is there a second?
Councilmember Harding, I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, so we'll putting this back on to the next month's work session. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the
Councilmember
motion.
Harden. Oh, Councilmember Hobbs, go ahead.
Councilmember
Bob.
Hobbs makes that motion. Thank you.
Second,
Councilmember Harden.
all in favor, say aye.
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 Any
Is there a
opposed?
hand? Is there a hand over there?
There is
Or
an
is-
and from Android.
Hand from Android. Android, you have something?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I missed it, but I heard Councilmember 3 give their report, but I didn't hear Councilmember 4. Did I miss that? Because I thought after Councilmember 3, it went into the mayor's report. Did I miss 4?
Yeah. No. Mayor went into a report, but no, I
I'm
didn't
so
have anything.
sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
I thought Councilmember Bowles was doing yours too. 'Cause-
Oh, Mayor's got jokes,
All
y'all.
24.
I mean, 'cause that's my ward. I was thinking maybe I missed something.
No, thank you for that. But no, I didn't. I was just gonna when I was gonna come up with when I was gonna speak, I was just gonna say, hey, you guys see that? Drop the mic. Like what you said was, I was dropping the mic for you, Councilmember Bowles.
Oh, I love you,
knew.
Melinda.
You pretty
I
much hit
knew.
heaven.
Well, thank you. That's June. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yes, thank you, June.
Visit.
Okay, great.
Okay. Motion and second to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you. We're getting better.
Thank
It's
you,
not
everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Bye,
Good
Mr.
night.
Barr.
Thanks,
Good
Ward
night,
3
everyone.
citizens and residents.
Melinda, don't say hello to me that way.